Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started in a few minutes. We're just trying to get all the tech stuff figured out. If you're just joining us, go ahead and put in the chat where you are from and let's get it started. Okay, Sweden, London, Austria. Hello, ladies, gentlemen. So happy to have you joining us today. I'm super excited for today. A lot of planning has went into this. We had over 100 people register, which is phenomenal. And I was very, very excited as this is my first big event. And we will also be doing a premiere through YouTube as well for those of you who are only able to stay for a portion of this. So we'll probably do two premieres to cover the time zones. And so this is really big. And I'm just so grateful for each and every one of you who have helped and have, supported and have shown up today. It's just really amazing. So yeah, keep that chat hot, guys. Go ahead and introduce yourself as we just wait for a few more people to join. And then we will get right into it. So I want to ask you a question and I want you to answer honestly, just for yourself. Have you ever felt lonely? Not on a trip, not in the airport, but right here in your own city, at work, among people you know, and maybe even people that you love. And when you try to share that dream and the room just goes quiet, you know that feeling. And that's exactly why we are here today. People ask me all the time, don't you ever feel lonely traveling solo? And, the honest answer is absolutely. And it's probably not in the way that you think. Loneliness is not a travel problem, it's a human one. And we are wired for connection. And for me, I felt the loneliest not on the other side of the world, but right here at home. Tired of waiting for permission and tired of waiting for someone to agree to come with me, tired of speaking about my dreams to see the world and to learn a new language and experience different cultures and stand in places where history actually happened and not just hear it from the media. And, being met in with silence or skepticism was always why, I just ended up going solo. And my first trip to Morocco, which wasn't my first solo trip, but my first trip to Morocco was for my 35th birthday, right in the middle of the pandemic. And I fell in love with that country in a way that I had never experienced anywhere else before. And it was exhilarating. It was magical. And the hospitality of the people, I just really don't have any words for it. And I left after 10 days of exploring that whole country. And what surprised me the most was when I got home, that feeling never left. And 3 months later, I went back and I was working on a small business project when the country went into lockdown and I couldn't leave for 50 days. Yeah, 50 days. And in those 50 days, I got to experience what it might actually be like to live there. Fresh food every single day, weekend trips to the beach with friends who immediately became like family. And we laughed together. We made tagines. We played music and we danced. And the locals were just so kind and always checking in on me. Such a beautiful place, beautiful seaside villages, vibrant cities. And even in the pandemic, it still carried that frequency of love and generosity. And people back home questioned my choice. In an Islamic country, a single Western woman with her daughter, I heard all kinds of things, guys. And yet Morocco and its people, even in the pandemic, outshone every single warning that I had been given. And 9 months later, I packed up everything. My daughter and I, we moved to Marrakesh and we lived there for over 4 years. And Morocco will always be home for me, despite being Canadian, despite having lived in the United States for almost 20 years. Morocco feels more almost like home to me than some of the other places that I lived, and even where I was born, if I'm completely honest. And here is what that experience actually taught me. We can't wait for the world to improve according to the news. We cannot take advice from people who've never done what we want to do or what we're dreaming of doing. And when we shrink ourselves to keep other people comfortable, we create a war within ourselves. And that is one of the loneliest feelings a person can live with. So go ahead and book that trip, take the adventure. You have one life to live, and you are free to live it on your own terms. After several years and several trips abroad, I created the Facebook group, Solo Travel Group for Women, which most of you probably on this call are a part of. So how Soul Sisters actually started. So after several years and several trips abroad, I created a Facebook group called Solo Travel Group for Women, and most of you are a part of that group. And that's how I've met you. I just wanted to find other women who felt the same way that I did, to be honest. I had no idea that this group would turn out to be what it is today. And I wanted to find people, other women who just were going for it, women who collected stories and who weren't afraid of the loneliness and who had learned to transform it into something that made them evolve as well, and that pushed them outside of their comfort zone, and just be on the same page with someone, right? Because here's what I had discovered: traveling solo doesn't mean that we don't need connection. It means that we seek it deeply. And most of us find it through solo travel in a way that we never really expected to. And this group grew, and it grew and it grew. It grew from one person to over 12,000. And, we're coming in from all over the world. And it's just unbelievable, when you can just, technology has made it so easy for us to connect with people. And so that's what this group is all about. And then Soul Sisters was born, a space for women who belong everywhere. And the majority of women who find their way to our community, they say the same thing when they arrive. I'm looking for travel friends and I'm looking for connection, just like I was. So that's what we built. And Soul Sisters is your belonging, and every woman is welcomed here. Our purpose is simple. We meet the needs for connection that every single one of us carry. Solo travel is what brought us together, and connection is the glue that keeps us together. And our hope is that no place in this world will ever truly feel like you are alone, whether you're traveling solo or in a Soul Sisters group trip. This community has grown into something that I am so deeply proud of. We have brought women into our group from across the globe, and we've watched strangers become lifelong friends. We have created a space where no destination is unreachable and no woman has to wait for someone else's permission to go. Isn't that amazing? And we're not stopping there. This September, a small group of Soul Sisters will travel through Costa Rica together, 8 days through the rainforest, volcanic lakes, and cloud forests, and local communities that will stay with us long after we come home. And in collaboration with our incredible partners at Let's Go Globetrotting, we are continuing to expand what's possible for women who choose to explore together. And for those of you who may not have passport access to every country in the world, we see you, we truly do, and you belong here. The majority of our Soul Sisters trips will come to you. We will support your local businesses and your communities and hear your stories and give you a voice. Secondly, take inventory of the countries that you can visit. Explore your own country. Take advantage of every freedom that you currently have and watch how quickly your world starts to open up. For those of you with passport privilege, I want you to be mindful. There are so many beautiful places that you have yet to explore and whose stories never get told, whose cultures are treated as other, and when they are simply extraordinary. At Soul Sisters Global Network, we believe that travel comes with responsibility. And if we have access, we lead with awareness. If we have access, we also listen first. And that's very important. And that's what the core of our Soul Sisters Global Network is all about. So that brings me to today. The Solo Travel Confidence Summit exists because of you, because somewhere between the dream and the departure gate, too many women get stuck. And we want to build something that helps you to move. So today you're going to hear from 6 extraordinary women, women who went from fear to first flight, women who crossed deserts on camelback, and women who packed a bag and built an entire life they had never planned. Women who will show you that being safe and being bold are not opposites. They travel together. You will have time to connect in our virtual lounge and choose your own and get to meet other people. And at the end of the day, we're going to have our giveaways. So please stay with us all the way through to the end because you must be present in order to claim the prize. This is not a passive summit. I want you to see you in the chat. I want to know that where you're joining from today. So if you are just joining us, please go ahead, put that in the chat, introduce yourself. This is community and it starts now. So without a further ado, I want to introduce our first speaker, Daisy Rodrick. She is coming in from London and she has lots to share with you today. So Daisy, I'm going to give you access and you can take it away. And there you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm going to go ahead.
I keep popping on and off the screen. This is actually my first Zoom call, so yeah.
That's okay. We
me.
can hear you.
Bear with me for a second, please.
Okay. So what we'll do is we will swap Daisy with, we're going to swap Daisy with Angie. Angie, are you ready?
Hi,
everyone. Okay, we will swap you with Daisy. So yeah, go ahead. I want to do an intro on Angie. So Angie is a friend of mine. We met in Morocco, and she is the owner, founder, operator of Let's Go Globetrotting. We will also be doing a trip together, which you'll hear more of, to Costa Rica in September. So yeah, so she's got some exciting things to talk about with us today. So take it away, Angie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Rachelle. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. Hi, everyone. Thank you for standing by. That's my messy desktop. Let's get big. Okay, thanks for tuning in. So as Rachelle said, I'm Angie. And we're talking about making friends on the road, getting connected. As Rachelle just said, I am the founder of Let's Go Globetrotting, which is a boutique travel agency. We specialize in group, adventure, and luxury travel. I'm also affiliated with Departure Lounge and Virtuoso, which means that I can give my clients the best of the best. That gives me access to a lot of perks that I can extend onward. But I started my career in travel, my life in travel as a tour leader. I've done a little bit of traveling previous to that, and I just applied for a job on a whim, and that's where my story started way back in 2007. I worked in the US and Canada markets, and obviously with that, we saw primarily it was English speaking. So we got a lot of folks from Australia, we got folks from England and New Zealand, some Canadians and Americans as well, but and a few other strong, some Asian and Europeans and a few Latin Americans in the mix. And what I observed as I ran these group tours is that a lot of folks had been signing up for them as an individual. And prior to that, the internet was not the thing that it is today. Social media, like Facebook, was just kind of getting started in this era. Age myself slightly, but I didn't know you could solo travel. I didn't know that was an option. I thought you had to go with your friends or your family at that point. So more than half the people on my group tours were actually traveling independently. Of course, we also got, friend groups or couples, but that really inspired me to take my first solo trip, which was to Japan in 2007, pre-smartphones. So here's my first trip where it all started. And here's also where I learned I maybe had really dove in the deep end. There's quite a difference between booking a group tour where everybody speaks the same language and ending up in Tokyo, which is the largest city in the world. It's not organized remotely similar to any Western civil. It's not the largest city in the world. It's the largest city that I'd ever been to at that point. It's not remotely similarly organized, even though it's quite, forward and advanced. It's huge. And I was navigating that by myself with a couple guidebooks. I didn't have a phone to get me, Google Maps to get me from A to Z. But thankfully, one thing that I did do right and helped me make connections was I stayed in a youth hostel. It was called K's Hostel. It was in Asakusa, which I thought was pronounced Azakusa. So I did a lot of hopping and bopping and navigating Tokyo's subway system. But thankfully, I met this similarly aged young lady at the time. We're all young ladies and gents here. In my hostel, she was in the dorm room with me. I was in like a 6-person women's dorm, and we met all of these folks. And I had a fabulous last night out. This was a New York bar, which is featured in the movie Lost in Translation with Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray from the era. That's why I wanted to see it. Wanted to go to Japan because, Harajuku Girls was out and Lost in Translation was out. And it really called to me. So, we did some karaoke, absolutely Japanese must-do kind of thing. So I really dove in the deep end on that trip. And once you're in the deep end, it kind of is sink or swim. So I did a little of both, but I'm here on the other side. And, I've traveled to over 60 countries around the world. And my friend just asked me, like, how many do you think you went to solo? Well over half of them. Because really, when we travel solo, we're really just saying, I'm not going to let loneliness, I'm not going to let fear, I'm not going to let interdependence on others prevent me from doing the things that I really want to do with my life. I go to the movies all the time by myself because I just want to see a movie. At this point, I've done so many things by myself, just because I really, really, at this point in my life, just if I want to do it, I want to do it. I'll certainly throw it out there to some friends or family or whoever, but I don't let that dictate whether or not my life is going to be lived on my terms, which is really important to the solo travel mindset. As Rachelle mentioned in her introduction, yes, of course, loneliness can hit all of us. I think it's a little bit better in this smartphone era because unless I'm in a totally upside down time zone, I want to share something with one of my best friends, I can get on FaceTime and they can see things through my eyes right then and there. I can text a photo. I couldn't do that in the early days of my personal experiences. And I'm not even the early days. The internet did exist. Facebook did exist. I would just have to download all those photos you saw of Japan. I took with my little point and shoot, and then I had to download them all and then post them. But when you're going somewhere by yourself, definitely find things to do and plan. You don't need somebody with you to walk through a museum or to go to a spa. I've sat at Michelin-starred restaurants by myself with a book, with a magazine, with my phone, and they just treat me like anybody else. The more you do this, you're going to have to be self-reliant sometimes. Maybe you misunderstood the bus schedule. Maybe you find yourself on the side of the road. Maybe you get to your from Tokyo, I went to Kyoto, and my bus arrived at 6 a.m, and the place I was staying in Kyoto wasn't even open. So I just sat outside and fell asleep on my suitcase. So I've had little odd byproducts, but in business, they sometimes say in sales, under promise, over deliver. I say, don't make yourself any promises. Don't put any high expectations that you need to make your next best friend. You're going alone. You're going to enjoy being alone. And then any friendships that I promise you will happen organically. Let the trip over deliver. So there's a few ways to get ahead of the curve, and depending on, maybe how old you are, my taste has evolved over the years, or what kind of environment you want to be in. There are many social accommodation. I did mention my hostel experience in Tokyo and how I met those people. We went out together. This has been more than Tokyo. I've backpacked around the world in my 20s and stayed at a lot of hostels. Hosteling International is a large major chain where they pretty much have standards as far as cleanliness and things like that. My preference for a hostel when it was there. A lot of these are dorm rooms. Like, I've actually stayed in a hostel a couple of years ago, but I got a single room, so you can get a single room. But depending on what's offered, but that you'll get a bed, maybe in a 4-person room, in a 6-person room. Some of those are shared by gender. I know all of us are women. I prefer the all women rooms. I would highly recommend all women, but I have stayed in like a 12 or 16-person mixed gender room, and it was a little stinkier and louder than I expected, but so it goes. I did some couch surfing in my younger years, same with Airbnb. I just say be particular with the host. Couch surfing is free, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Airbnb also has a stay with somebody's home version, so maybe we're familiar with it, but if you didn't know, they have a shared option. So often people have a bedroom in their home. That's a little more private than couch surfing, but it does come with a cost. When selecting a host, I tend to prefer a woman, sometimes a couple. I don't stay with men just for my own sanity. That's top totally. And I've also had experiences where the host will have a conversation or over dinner. I've had hosts drive me to the train station or airport. So how social they are, and I've had people take me to barbecues with their friends. So like how social they are is totally contingent on how they're approaching and treating, their business, or but they are being a host. And then co-working and co-living spaces. Well, co-working spaces, some of them do and some of them don't have co-living spaces, like WeWork. This is from outside skating kind of popularity around a lot of the major cities worldwide. Sorry. And that's really great for people that are digital nomading and want to hunker down for anywhere from like a week to a couple months. You have your own private room, but you have very social common areas. Sorry. Okay, so other ways, if you don't want to be in a social environment or this in tandem with that, I always say book a tour. There's nothing wrong or nothing that takes away the solo travelness of you by being in a tour. Be it a day excursion, a half-day excursion, things like snorkeling for 2 hours. Like I did a sunset kayak tour in Croatia, and the whole group afterwards went to dinner, then went to the bar. So the 3 sites that kind of have most activities that you can, that make it searching really easy are Viator, which I've been using for over a decade now. TripAdvisor acquired them recently. And Get Your Guide and Airbnb Experiences are also doing similar things. You can find people, and when you have people naturally built in around you, you're going to start chatting. Now, are all these people going to be lifelong friends? Maybe not, but you spent 2 or 3 hours connecting, being able to have a chat, good times. Group tours are the ones where people really become closer with people. They can be a couple days. These multi-day tours. I should have said multi-day, not group tours, but they are group multi-day tours. So from like a few days, like 3 or 4 days, up to there's tours that last 2 months. My preference, and this is just my preference, is 1 to 2 weeks. I know people that have absolutely loved like Nairobi to Cape Town as a 2-month experience, and I know people that have had really positive experiences. I ran a 2-month tour that started and ended in LA and went all the way around the US. That's why my preference is 2 weeks though. And within those tour groups, you can also find things to do, like commonalities. So some of them are age-based. So if you're on the 18 to 30 end, it'll be a lot more active, maybe a lot more I want to say partying, but a little bit of partying. There's ones that are 50 up, and those folks tend to go to bed at a reasonable hour. There's groups that are women only or for special interests, like scuba certified. There's all different tiers of some are camping, some are in luxury accommodation, different kinds of tour operators, really niche specialists in a locale, and there's some big giant international companies that also run tours locally or are more serving as an umbrella company for a lot of local operators. If you have not booked a group tour before, this is where I might say working with a travel advisor to really help you find a group that appeals to you and is a niche, because again, I like small group, but I ran the large big buses that have 50 people on it. In both styles of travel, the small group, everybody sort of kind of buddies together, because if there's a dozen of you, you tend to mostly do things together. But like when there's 50, there's definitely people find their people within that. So plenty of opportunities to really get to know people. And my favorite way of making friends is just the old-fashioned way. This happened to me recently, about a year ago. I was in Varanasi, India. I was solo traveling. I was solo dining in a restaurant, a local restaurant, because I was clearly not Indian when the majority of people were, and two other women walked in. Every table was full. They asked me if they could come and sit, and we had a great conversation, and then we exchanged contact details and did keep in touch and do stuff again the next day. One of my big early adventures was I went to Australia for 8 months. For those of you that are American, it is one of the few countries that'll give us a working holiday visa. This is a little bit off the beaten track, or no, it's not really off the beaten track. It's a major city. It's just not the main major city in Australia, but I went to Perth first. And in my first few days there, I hear an American accent, which is just not the most common thing in Perth. So I asked the person, this cute little young lady here, "Are you American?" "Yep, she's Hawaiian." And that, we literally, on the basis of both being American, exchanged numbers and started hanging out all the time. She also had her boyfriend with her. This is Ewan. They had actually met teaching English in Japan. So she was on leg 2 of a big international journey. So they spent 2 years teaching English in Japan together. Because they could both get working holiday visas, they went to Australia and sort of worked and backpacked their way around the country. But we had so many adventures. This is Rottnest Island. You can tell I'm American if there's any Aussies tuning in, because an Australian would never ever touch one of these things, but they are very cute. Neil, we're in the digital age. We're in the modern world. We absolutely can connect online. Rachelle mentioned that we met in Morocco. The reason we originally met is because we were both in a Moroccan Facebook group for a Facebook group for women living in Marrakesh that speak English. And I met a few friends in that Facebook group. But there's also other groups, and you'll find different things work better in different destinations. But Facebook now, I know that maybe some Gen Zs are too cool for Facebook, but if you're traveling and you're not in that generate, like you'll find it that there are still very many active Facebook communities, and whether they be destination specific, like Marrakesh, about shared interests within a community. Like I currently live in Philadelphia, and there's a group for Philadelphia women, or just a travel-based group like the solo travel group for women. These are all things that we have. So I've seen people post, like I had somebody say, "I'm coming to Marrakesh," or "I'm coming to Morocco. Is anybody in Morocco?" And I said, "I'm in Marrakesh. Hit me up." And we went and explored Bahia Palace, which is a tourist destination that I hadn't seen previously. A lot of these we have everywhere, like Bumble BFF and Meetup. Those are just good if you're going to new cities. Same with Internations, which is targeting kind of expats. So some of these might be better depending on your lifestyle. Are you breezing through town? Are you going to be there for 3 or 4 days? Are you gonna hunker down for a couple months or maybe even years? Time left is fun, especially if you're feeling a little lonely. Quite a few of my friends in Morocco, it's basically like once a week they host a dinner, and you enter that you want to attend the dinner, and then a couple hours before it says, go to this specific restaurant. Like you know what it is, you just don't know where it is, and there'll be 5 other people waiting, and from those dinners, people have exchanged numbers and been able to extend their travels. Once you start doing this, you're gonna find that doors open up worldwide because you're gonna start making friends that live in different places to you. So, as I said, Mari was Hawaiian. On my way back from Australia, she told me, why don't you stop in Hawaii, which is the natural stopover point between Australia and the continental US. So we had a lot of fun. Kylie was a Sydney-based Australian who was actually a traveler on one of my group tours, and we got to do, so I say, like, you get to be a tourist in your own city sometimes too. The bridge climb in Sydney. And when I was in Antarctica, there was an expedition couple, Penny, who's my buddy right here, who's Romanian, and her husband Henry. And they said in the off season, why don't you come to Romania? And I don't think I'm ever going to get an invitation to Romania very often. So we did. There's us at Brahms Castle, which is the inspiration for Dracula. So I got my little Romanian adventure. And honestly, even Hawaii was not on my radar. So there's things like this, like, seize the opportunity. You won't, these things come up. So it kind of goes hand in hand with keep in touch. When you're leaving, parting ways, get their socials, get their phone numbers. I met Kat, we're the two little ladies swimming in the pool here. This is a group tour, that's what I'm saying. Like, they're very social. Kat moved to Milan. She went and hosted me, and we went down to Cinque Terre together. They are your local experts, and I've returned this in favor as well. I've had people come visit me in destinations. I've lived in Morocco, I've lived in LA, places that people want to come. I've lived in New York City. So, my couch is open. Also, things like I just said, Romania was not on my radar, but you don't know what the future lies. There's also plenty of people that meet on a trip and realize they both have the travel bug and meet down the line on a second trip. They say, well, where do we both want to go? We did this last year. Let's meet up next year. So you might have a friend who lives 20,000 miles from you, but you meet up. There's people that meet up annually to take a vacation together. So with that, someday you might be someone's Penny and Henry. Someday you might be somebody's Kat. And I just want to point out that you really don't ever know who you're going to meet until you get out there. So Penny and Henry, she's Romanian, he's German. They both moved to Iceland to kind of have like a work and live abroad experience. They did so completely solo and met each other. They lived together they worked in Antarctica. They got married in Antarctica, which is apparently something you can do and amazing. And any moment now, Penny's ready to pop with number 2. Here's Mari and Ewan. Like I said, they met in Japan teaching English. They went to Australia and backpacked around for a year. They got married and they're in Hawaii with 2 cuties and a dog. Isn't that just perfect and cute? No, but they're super lovely. I love them. I love all of these people. These are my friends around the world. And sometimes you'll meet your own best friend. So when I was in Morocco, a tiny little kitten climbed on me. He had a fever. He had some ringworm. And that, I took him to the vet, and the vet said, if you leave that cat on the street, now Morocco has a lot of street cats, he's not going to make it. Look, he's sick. So I nursed him back to health. And then he joined me around the world. Here he is on his big, exciting airplane day. Thankfully, the guy who sat next to me also liked cats. We're just living happily ever after. He likes being American, I guess. I don't think he knows. So that poses to me, are you ready to find your people? your life story is out there. It's how they say those who traveled, it's only, have only read one page. I don't know how that quote goes, but if you have any questions, I'm always available via email. My socials I know are up there. So if you ever want help planning a trip, I'm out here. So I'd love to share I love sharing my experiences and my knowledge, but I also want to help anyone who is trying to make an adventure of their own. And, I love being a woman of the world. So like International Women of Mystery.
That was awesome, Angie. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. If you guys have any questions, go ahead, put them down. We got about 4 or 5 minutes for Q&A. But I
can't promise you all will find the love of your lives, although a few have. But I think if you go to a certain country, you can find a cat.
We love fox. Go follow Angie. She shares lots about fox, and maybe she'll go into depth about the story of fox at some point. I think it's worth telling. He's such a sweet cat, and I had the privilege of cat sitting while Angie went to India. And yeah, Fox is a very, very, very special cat, and he's a warrior cat. He's been through a lot, and he's just very special. So,
yes.
But I do have a question. Do you have any stories to share real quickly about maybe like an awkward thing that actually ended up turning out to be good? Like an awkward meeting with someone, or maybe awkward situation, and it ended up.
Oh, I think I can be the queen of awkward sometimes. Especially, we've got an international community here. I don't know that the American like charm is always charming, but I just laugh at myself. This is what I think. If you're going around the world, best case scenario, you make meaningful connections. Some of these people, like the woman Kylie who I did the bridge climb with, I started tour leading in 2007. She was on one of my tours in 2007. We talk a couple times a month still. We visited each other. We plan to meet up sometime somewhere. But I don't lose these people are still in my lives. And it's the same as like with high school. Like I know I'm going a little bit off. Like I love having them on my socials. I sometimes say happy birthday. Sometimes we have whole conversations. There's people I talk to regularly, and there's people that I talk to infrequently. But like once you've had a place in my heart, they say everyone's a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Even those people that are a season have a big place in my heart, and I try to keep in touch with them. But like as far as awkwardness, the one thing is, oh, it's just me. I'm a foreigner. Over the years, I have managed to tone down my Americanness. Some people are like, "Oh, you're not like a regular American." Well, no, I'm pretending. But we're louder. We in the US we do this, but no, I mean the worst case scenario is unless I'm on some kind of like extended group tour, which like I also said, like I prefer to cap it at 2 weeks just to get some of that independent energy back out. But if if you don't like me, or I don't, or you think I'm weird, or I don't know, I don't have to see you again. You live where you live. Like it's not like a coworker where you have to see them every day.
Yeah. No, you know what? Americans bring the vibes always. So
for good or for bad, yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna party, you want Americans with you for sure. Take it from me. I lived in New York for almost 20 years, and there's nothing like meeting someone on the road, a fellow New Yorker. I had this experience in Morocco where I met a fellow New Yorker, and oh my God, I mean, Angie too, but like we would go out together and it was like New York was in the house. So
right.
Maybe not everybody agrees with that, but it definitely is nice to, you know it right away. You hear the accent, you feel it before you see it. So,
yes.
But anyway, thank you so much, Angie. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for being with us, for sharing all your knowledge.
Thank you for letting me join in. I hope everybody got some valuable information from that. Rachelle, I'll send you my PowerPoint if you ever want to use and distribute if anybody needs. But I
Yep.
think there's going to be a replay. But thank you everyone for tuning in. And whether you are taking your first solo trip or thinking about it, rip off the Band-Aid, or if you're taking your 10th, 20th, 30th solo trip, maybe you got a tidbit or two through all of this. So thank you for tuning in, and
Thank
I'll
you so
catch you
much.
all on the site, maybe in Costa Rica.
Absolutely.
Take it
Okay.
easy.
We will be next having Daisy join us. She had just a little bit of technical issues, and I think she is back now with us. So Daisy is in London, and she is the founder of the Girls Travel Club. She's going to be talking today about from fear to first flight. When I asked her to do this speak for the summit, I felt like she could really talk to us about confidence. She's grown a lot in this area herself by sharing some of the stories to me. And she is an avid traveler, does a lot of these extreme day trips, and her social media is just popping. So go ahead, unmute yourself, Daisy, and take it away. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Daisy and I'm a single mum. I'm also a passionate traveler and someone who truly believes that travel can transform not just where you go, but who you become. As a mother, my life can often feel centered around my kids. It's always constant routines and responsibilities. And so being able to travel more has given me something incredibly powerful. It's given me confidence and it's given me independence and a deeper understanding of myself. So I started traveling quite late in my mid 20s, around 25. So being able to show my kids the world at such a young age, like it means absolutely everything to me. So sometimes I travel with them and I also try to travel solo as much as I can. This year alone, I've embraced every opportunity I could because, as you can imagine, being a single mum is tiring. And I truly love to take a break away from home life from time to time. So this year I've done quick overnight solo adventures in Europe, and I did an extreme day trip in Europe, along with a few unforgettable nights in North Africa with my children, proving to myself that travel doesn't always have to be big or extravagant to be meaningful. So before this year, 2026, I had only been on 3 solo trips in total. And this year alone, I've already been on 3 solo trips. So I went to Barcelona for an extreme day trip and I had a brilliant time. Then I went to Milan for one night and I had a brilliant time. And I went back to Barcelona again for another solo trip in April and I had an amazing time. And I also took my kids to Marrakesh for a few days and it was our first time in Morocco and it was absolutely amazing. So notice how I keep pointing out that I've had a brilliant time on all of my solo trips, like I honestly did. I really am starting to enjoy my traveling, so like my travel solo journey for so many reasons. And one of the biggest reasons is being able to have genuine me time. Funnily enough, my trip to Barcelona last month was actually supposed to be with a group of friends that I used to work with, 3 other girls, but they pulled out one by one. And even though the flights were booked already, like the flights were only around £50 each. So it wasn't like anyone was losing hundreds of pounds, but everyone had their own issues come up last minute. And it was frustrating for me, but I still went. And obviously, I went because I love traveling solo. So, of course, I was initially looking forward to it being a girls' trip, but instead it became stressful. I had to change the accommodations, I had to keep adjusting plans and just constant back and forth. And in the end, I was exhausted. And honestly, it reminded me exactly why I love solo travel. So today, I just want to share how travel has shaped my confidence, taught me how to trust myself, tolerate discomfort, and ultimately to just do things scared, alone, and for me. My very first solo trip was to New York. That was over 10 years ago. Looking back now, it makes me feel incredibly proud of myself because I truly went straight into the deep end with my solo travel journey. I'm from London, so I could have easily chosen somewhere much closer to home, maybe just an hour away, but instead I chose New York, a place I dreamed about going for years. Okay, so I loved it so much that I went back again the following year. So why did I do that? Honestly, it was one of the most common reasons people choose to travel solo, and that's maybe not having anyone to go with. Maybe it's being let down by friends. Maybe it's the plans never leaving the group chat. Maybe it's constantly waiting for others. I don't like going back and forth with people. So once I set my mind on going somewhere, I'm going, even if it means going alone. I got tired of feeling let down and stuck, because waiting for others can leave you feeling exactly that, stuck, you know? So, and we all have freedom, we all have choices, and we all have the ability to build confidence. So, when it comes to solo travel, confidence isn't something you're simply born with, it's something that you build slowly. Sometimes that takes time. It can come with age, personal growth, life experiences, or simply just reaching to a point where you think, if I don't do this soon, I never will. And that journey is different for everyone. This is not a race, I have to say. And it's not a competition. You have to start small. You have to take, like, maybe take a day trip somewhere nearby. Maybe you can start in the UK or in Europe. Like, it really does take just planning and preparation and trusting yourself enough to begin. And I can honestly say that most people who try to solo travel end up loving it so much that they can't stop talking about it, even bragging about it, because it really can make you feel that good about yourself. Now, I never said that solo travel was easy, because traveling alone to another country into the unknown, especially as a woman, can absolutely feel hard. It can feel scary and it can feel very uncomfortable, but it's also incredibly rewarding. Of course, your first trip may feel uncomfortable, but I truly believe the first trip is just often the hardest. And every trip teaches you something new, because life is unpredictable and people are different. Experiences will always vary. But if you let fear stop you completely, you will never experience the world the way that you deserve to. And the world was created to be seen by you and by me. So being a confident solo traveler means learning to tolerate discomfort. Even now, I still get uncomfortable sometimes. You may think, what if I get lost? What if I miss my flight? What if something happens? What if I hate it? What if I've made a huge mistake? But travel is never truly a waste. You know, you're either going to enjoy it, you're going to learn from it, or you're going to grow through it, sometimes all three. If you allow the what ifs to control you, then you may never take the first step. I used to feel far more uncomfortable doing solo beach holidays than like versus solo breaks, city breaks, sorry. City breaks felt easier because I could explore, stay busy, and blend into crowds, but beach holidays sometimes made me feel a little bit more alone. This happened a few times, like I'd see families or couples, and sometimes I'd worry about standing out or attracting unwanted attention. When I went to the Gran Canaria solo a few years ago, I stayed in a beautiful resort and I enjoyed myself during the day. But at night, when everyone got dressed up and went out, I often didn't feel confident enough to fully embrace that alone. But now I'm so much more confident. Like, I genuinely don't care what others think. I came here with intention. I chose to travel alone. I choose my own freedom. I choose myself. And if I want to sit in a restaurant alone and go for drinks alone or explore alone, I absolutely will, because I've grown into that person. It took time, but I'm embracing that journey. Solo travel allows me to feel free, and you can absolutely build that same confidence too. Traveling solo is a flex, as I'd like to say, because it makes me feel powerful. And I'm talking about personal power, self leadership, and reclaiming identity. For me, power equals freedom of choice. I choose where I go. I choose what I eat. I choose how I spend my time. I answer to no one. It's my itinerary. It's my rules, my joy, my experience. Power equals independence. That's from booking flights to navigating cities to solving problems, handling fear. Like, there's so much power in knowing that you can rely on yourself completely. Power for me also means reclaiming identity. As mothers, so much of our lives revolve around giving to our children, giving to our homes, giving to others. Solo travel gives us space to reconnect with who we are beyond our responsibilities, and it allows us to rediscover ourselves and to honor our desires and remember our individuality. So power also equals confidence in uncertainty, and that could be unfamiliar places, language barriers. These experiences remind us that we are adaptable, we're capable, and we're often far stronger than we give ourselves credit for. You have to choose yourself. You have to prioritize your happiness. You have to reject the guilt. You should never feel guilty for wanting to experience life fully. because confidence comes when you become the author of your own life and you stop waiting for perfect circumstances, you know? Perfection for me can come from imperfect action, and the world is waiting for you and I to travel. So why wait for anyone else when you can just take that leap of faith? Um, I promise you, you will not regret it. Confidence comes from preparation, and preparation creates confidence. So, for many women, the fear of solo travel isn't necessarily the destination itself, it's the uncertainty around all the small details. But when you break everything down step by step, solo travel becomes far less overwhelming. Just be a planner. Planning can remove so much unnecessary stress. Of course, not everything goes perfectly, but having a plan can make a huge difference. And I'm going to go through some of the key elements now with like planning your trip, and hopefully you can feel a bit more at ease, starting with maybe airport anxiety. So a fear could be things like missing flights, going through security. It could be boarding or simply navigating the airport alone. A tip would be to always arrive early at the airport, maybe being on time, checking in online. This saves you time at the airport. Downloading your boarding passes, having everything ready is far more stress free. Maybe even research the airport layout beforehand. Keep your passport and documents safe and organized. Preparation always reduces panic, and the more organized you are, the calmer you feel. Luggage can also feel stressful. A fear could be overpacking. You may find yourself thinking, will I have enough space when I travel? Maybe I've overpacked. I always overpack when I go on holiday, but another fear could be losing essentials, which often happens when you're panicking and stressed. So a tip would be to travel lighter, keep your valuables in your hand luggage, and only pack essentials. Transport to the hotel can be another huge source of anxiety. I think a fear could be maybe getting lost, being scammed by a taxi driver, or facing language barriers is quite common. And a tip could be to maybe pre-book your transfers, because if you pay for things in advance, it just saves a lot of stress. Maybe save your hotel address before leaving the UK so you already know exactly where you're going. Using offline maps. Honestly, I would probably be lost without maps and rely on them heavily. Screenshotting and saving key details, such as just everything really, and knowing your arrival plan before you even leave wherever you're leaving from. Hotel confidence is another important factor. A fear could be checking in alone and wondering what to do, having safety concerns, or simply feeling awkward walking around by yourself. A tip I could give you would be to just plan beforehand, choose central locations. Being around more people can often reduce anxiety. Share your itinerary with family. It's always good for someone to know where you are in the world, just in case. And most importantly, just trust your instincts. Always trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right when you're booking, listen to yourself instead. And yeah, because safety and preparation allows you to relax and enjoy your experience. Money can also be a huge concern. A fear could be currency confusion, running out of money, or having card issues. Tips would be to maybe take a travel card with you, um, carry backup cash in case of emergencies. It's always good to have extra cash. Always notifying your bank before you're traveling, because blocked cards, like, they can block your cards due to unusual activity and stuff like that. Um, yeah, planning activities can also be overwhelming. You could have a fear you could be asking yourself, what do I do? Like, am I wasting my time? Is it safe? A tip would be to book one or two key activities, take things at your own pace, but make sure you experience the things that you truly want to do, keeping it flexible, researching neighborhoods maybe. Some areas may feel too busy while others may feel too isolated, and just prioritize your enjoyment when you're away. Um, I'd say a loose plan gives structure without pressure, but each small step builds confidence, and you are so capable. Life is simply too short to miss out on the good life. Um, Staying in one place often means missing out on so much of the world, and the world is huge. And for me personally, exploring as much of it as possible is my dream. I love inspiring people to travel because I genuinely want to help other women like yourselves get the absolute best out of life. If you're tired of waiting for friends or family and finally and want to commit to trips, you're not alone. There's so many travel groups that you can join where you can meet like-minded people like you. Maybe consider joining a travel group like the Soul Sisters. Can genuinely be life-changing for you. It can be a huge game changer because it brings people together and it allows you to meet new people, go on exciting adventures, and potentially experience some of the best moments of your life. And that is incredibly rewarding. Traveling with someone you've just met can sometimes feel similar to solo travel, but you still experience the build up, the nerves, the lessons, but slightly less pressure. So whether you choose to solo travel or travel with strangers, they're both amazing options. I've actually started my own women's travel group, and that's focusing mainly on trips within the UK. And I'm honestly so excited about it, being able to help change women's lives, build their confidence, and encourage them to see this incredible world genuinely makes me happy. So I truly hope I've encouraged at least one person here today. And I would absolutely love to connect with you all. So feel free to find me on social media, which should hopefully be linked somewhere through the summer. And my women's travel group is called the Getaway Girls Club, and it's going to be a success. I launched last month, and I'm taking a group of women to Milan this month on an extreme day trip, and we're all super excited. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes and looking forward to doing longer trips with bigger groups in the future and networking with like-minded people like yourselves. And one of the best things I've done this year is connected with Rachelle from the Soul Sisters group. And just, you're such a lovely person. You've encouraged me so much, and this journey's just been amazing. And you are so amazing. We're all about coming together and helping each other. So feel free to also reach out to myself if you need advice on traveling somewhere. I'll be happy to answer to you. And I don't think my speech is, I don't know how long it's been, but I just want to say thank you again for inviting me to be a speaker today. I was incredibly nervous. This is not something I've done before, but I'm glad I did it. And it was a fun experience. And yeah.
You did amazing. Doesn't she speak
I'm
so
so
well?
nervous.
She's so eloquent in her speech, and I love your accent.
Sorry, I'm trying to get back. See, I've lost you again now. You've just,
um,
oh my gosh.
that's okay. We can still see you, and
One
but
second.
we do have a couple questions.
I'm not familiar with Zoom at all. Sorry. I
That's
don't do a
okay.
lot of
That's
Zoom
okay.
calls.
We're just gonna go with it. So we have two questions that came in, and the first one is,
I'll turn
is
this up
there
a
a
little bit.
place that you can recommend for a first solo travel?
Um, I'm not too sure. I'd have to think about that. But for me, I would say it's always easier to travel solo somewhere more like a busy city rather than somewhere that's more quite like a beach destination. Because when you travel somewhere like myself, I chose to go to New York. I found that not so hard because you're in a busy city, there's lots of tourists everywhere. And because it's a city, you're doing stuff constantly, and you feel less isolated. There's just people around you. Like you haven't got time to really think about it. But when I went on a beach trip solo on my own, I just felt, I don't know. I was okay during the day, but during the evening, I just felt alone. There's times where I just felt like I wish I'd chosen to go somewhere else. So I'd say maybe go to a busy city, you know?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
good
it, and
advice.
just somewhere not so, like I went to Morocco for the first time this year and I went with my kids, but I don't think I could have, well, not say I couldn't have because I've got the confidence too, but I would have found it a little bit more uncomfortable somewhere like Morocco versus somewhere like Spain, I think because of the language barrier. It was just a totally different experience for me. Um, yeah, first place. Hmm. What, in Europe?
Barcelona is a great
In Europe,
city.
yeah, Barcelona. I
Yeah,
went to Barcelona for the first time this year by myself, and I had an amazing time. And
yeah.
believe it or not, I know extreme day trips are not for everyone, but I went for the day. As you saw in my video, I did quite a lot, and I had so much fun. So much fun. Barcelona, anyone could do Barcelona on their own easily.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You know what? It is my all-time favorite city in the world that I've been to
Yeah.
so far, because it's easy to navigate. It's friendly enough. And, even if you are not a Spanish speaker, English is widely used there. And
Yeah.
it's still kind of like old world feel, like, with
Mm,
all of the beautiful architecture, and the food
yeah.
is incredible. And
I
yeah.
don't know how I only started visiting Barcelona this year. Somewhere I should have went years ago, but I sort of gave up on Spain because I felt like, oh, everywhere you go in Spain is kind of the same. It was getting a bit boring for me, but Barcelona, it's just
Yes.
excited me now. I'm so excited to go back
Yes.
again.
We got
So,
one more question, and that is there one place that you absolutely would not travel to alone as a single female?
you know what? I'm saying this because of stuff that I've seen on social media, but at the moment, for me, I'm kind of nervous to go to Egypt. And I don't know why, because it's kind of 50-50, because there's a lot of people, there's 50% of people that absolutely love it. And then there's all the horror stories. I see a lot of horror stories saying that you get scammed out there a lot and this happens and that happens. And I'm kind of like in between. I definitely love to go, but I think if I go, I would go with someone first or maybe take my kids and then see if I could do it solo. So that's the only place that I'm kind of a bit
Yes.
skeptical about at the moment.
We have a group trip planned to Egypt. So if Egypt is on your list, we'll be talking about that later. And we have great partners in Egypt, tour operators that are very experienced.
How
And
many times have you been to Egypt?
no, I haven't been. This will
Oh,
be
you
my
haven't
first
been.
time.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
See, I would love to come with you guys. Let's see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, there, like, I guess, there, it depends on what your comfort level is. I think starting out, it would be better to maybe do some like some places even in your own country
Mm,
or city.
yeah.
Start that way. It's a great way. Maybe then taking on like a level 2 or 1 or 2, like a more of a complex place
Yeah,
that's
just
a little
start
harder to get
small,
around.
It
Yeah.
doesn't just
And
oh,
and as you said too, solo travel can also be with a group. That's more of a hybrid kind
yeah.
of thing. And highly recommend, doing group trips to some
Mm.
countries that you might not like.
It's a good way to start,
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
good way to
speak the
start.
language or have like connections there too. So,
Mm.
yeah. All right. Well, it was so wonderful to have you. I appreciate you coming
Yeah,
and
no worries, man. Thank
getting
you
out of
for
your
having me.
comfort zone. You did amazing.
Oh my gosh, I was so nervous. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome. You're
Bye
welcome.
bye.
Okay. All right. So we are going to take a quick break and go ahead and put some comments in the comments, feedback, or any questions that you have. Maybe introduce yourself, drop your social media, follow the speakers. So far, we have posted their social media handles. So go ahead and give them a follow, show them some love. I am going to do a quick message from our sponsors. So, as most of you know, we have our main sponsor, which is MVST Select. They are a luggage brand, and they have given us 3 carry-ons, beautiful carry-ons that we will be doing a draw towards the end. So please stay to the end. And I'm going to also open up their slide so you can take a screenshot of that. And they are also giving us a discount code. So if you are in the market for new luggage, you will definitely want to check these guys out because they have a lifetime warranty, and they're just very beautiful, aesthetically beautiful. All right, so go ahead, take a screenshot of that or a photo with your phone so that you have it. The exclusive discount is for 15% off. The code is SSSTS, and you can see their website below. But these are the 3 carry-on cases that will be in the giveaway today. So thank you so much to our sponsors, MVST. Really appreciate your support. And Also, I am offering a promo for my solo travel course. It's on my website, www.soulsistersglobalnetwork.com. It's 50% off on all tiers. It's a work at your own pace course for solo travel, building your confidence. If you are struggling with not knowing where to start, this is a great place to start. So there is the basic tier 1, which is just the course that you can do at your own pace. Then we have tier 2, which is the group coaching. So we'll be doing group coaching with that. And then the VIP tier, which is the one-on-one coaching, and where I help you put together your trip in real time and just one-on-one attention with me. And then you get everything else that's included in all the other tiers. So for the summit promo, it's 50% off for each tier. So you just go put it in the cart and the discount will automatically be applied at the checkout. Also, I will be giving away today a VIP course towards the end. So that is just one more thing that's coming up. Okay, we're going to be hearing from Cathrine next, and she's going to be sharing with us her story, The Desert Called and I Answered. I met Cathrine through the Soul Sisters Facebook group, the Solo Travel Facebook group, and she had so graciously shared a story about her desert trekking, camel trekking adventure. And that story was actually posted on our website and shared on our social media. And Cathrine is just a wonderful, wonderful human. And we've kept in touch, over the last couple of months. And I thought her story would be so great to share because it is one of those things that you don't really hear these kinds of stories often. A lot of times, riding a camel is definitely a novelty where a lot of people want to do it. If they go to Egypt or Morocco or anywhere in the Middle East, it's usually on every itinerary. But what Cathrine has done is she treks solo, and she's going to be sharing her stories today, and they're extraordinary. And I'm so excited to also hear, because I'm sure she's going to be sharing a lot of things today that I haven't heard yet. So I am very excited. Cathrine, I am going to give you host privileges here.
Yeah?
Yay!
Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you and I can see you.
Great. Then it's my time to try to share. My name is Cathrine. I'm from Denmark, and I am 51 years old. I normally don't tell my age, but it's for you to see that adventures comes in all ages, definitely. And I'm going to tell about my 10-step planning guide, but I will not stick that close to the slides. I will try to come with examples that can explain the text on the slides. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know why, but that's how it is.
You don't need to be nervous. We're all just normal people.
I know. We are all good, but I don't know. Anyway, when I plan in the beginning, I had to accept that it took a little bit of time planning. So 80% of the time when I was out there, not out there planning, it would be the rest of everything. The whole time I consumed with the trip and planning and everything would be 80%. But the more that I got into finding my network, finding the right sources for research and get my skills together and get my gear packed together, then I found that it starts to get easier, much easier. So most people say when I tell them that I walk in the desert, that it's an empty place. They don't understand what I'm doing out there. And they think it's kind of cute, but it's just empty. And when I think about the desert, it is far by empty. For example, this is some pictures of things I have seen and experienced in the desert. And you have like the Valley of Wales that shows when Sahara was an ocean. They have found the fossils of land mammals that turned into whales, the evolution of whales. And then we have the shrines in Mhamed in Morocco, a wonderful desert to trek in. And you can see all kind of stuff out there. It's really beautiful. Turkana semi-desert in the northern Kenya. I did not trek with camels there because they have like, there are two tribes and they like to take livestock from each other. And then they steal and then they fight a little bit and then the other one steal. And I was afraid if I was trekking with the camel up there that they will steal it from me and then I would be stuck with a lot of luggage on my way. So I kind of dropped that idea, but I went hiking down the lake. And it's the world's largest desert lake, and it's really beautiful. It's a permanent desert lake and absolute beautiful. There's a wild things going on up there, but it's amazing. And if you ever have the chance, you should go there. Then we have Jordan. Jordan had turned into like my playground for when I need to learn some new skills. And it's also the place where I have been solo trekking with camels all by myself. I had my guide come out after 3 days, but other than that, then I was on my own and dealing with everything on my own. And it was awesome too. I will get back to that as well. Seasons and for how long? Seasons, rainy seasons and the hot summers are no good. It's a no-go in the desert and nobody should do that. Not even the locals do it unless they are in a car and they have plenty of water with them. So a tourist shouldn't go there at all at that time. And the way I see how long my trip is going to be is that I look at a map and then I want to see something here and here and here. And I look at the kilometers between those places and I find my trail this way. And then I know I have like this amount of daylight in the season that I choose. And I know I have to get up early in the morning, get my breakfast, pack down the camp, load the camels, start walking. And then about 11, 12 o'clock, then I know that I have to have my lunch break and it's going to be for like 3 hours or something like that. Because in that time, the sun is too hot. I cannot walk. I need to rest and I need to maybe fix my gear or get some lunch, just enjoy myself, get some sleep. And after that, I will pack the camp down again, load the camels, and then keep walking till like 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon and find the place I want to camp. And I always try to find the camp before sunrise because that's where I can see if I'm camping in a place that is actually where it makes sense to camp. Because also have to think about snakes and scorpions. So not too many rocks and stones around and open landscape so you can see what is coming close to you. And sometimes you might like to avoid it. And that's why you camp before sunrise so you can see what you do. Anyway, here is my arm when I went to Turkana because I missed out the most important thing is to check the UV index. And normally you don't need like to cover up that much in the desert. In the daytime, you can have a t-shirt on and you still well, and you can just use some sunscreen. But in some deserts, you have to accept that the UV index is very high. I lost all the skin down my arm, and that is really not that good because it's the first. It's a part of your immune system, and if you're losing your skin, it's going to be a little bit difficult to keep bacteria and stuff like that away. So don't do my mistake. put on long sleeves and stay safe. And then we have research. It's kind of key for everything you do when you travel. And there's the ordinary things you can do for research, like visa, flight tickets, travel insurance and stuff. But then I'm also going in and looking at the papers, and on Facebook you can find a lot of news outlets that will tell you about the specific country that you want to visit. And when it came to Turkana, I was looking at what the condition was for that area, because as I told you a little bit, it's a little bit wild. And when I was going there, I found out through the news that are coming that in Pokot, that is the county before Turkana, there's a mountain and you pass through there. Then you come to a bridge and you come to the first town in Turkana that is called Kainuk. And at Kainuk, bandits like to sometimes shoot at matatus. It is like the buses where ordinary passengers pass through up to Lodva, that is the main town. And they will shoot at the matatus, or they will ask the passengers to get out and shoot over their heads, steal some stuff from them and stuff like that. So from my research, I found out that maybe going through land up to the main town wasn't a good idea. So I decided to fly up instead. And this is what the research will show you, what is the best way to do things. And there's always happening something in the deserts, but Turkana is just a little bit more wild than anything else. And then, of course, you have to look into the laws in the country and make sure that that you stick to them and try to do your best to be a good guest in the country. Then I have a quote that I really like. If I ever die on the trail, please discuss what I did wrong. You do not need to die on the trail for this one to work. It could also be like, if I ever dehydrate on the trail, or if I ever get lost on the trail, please discuss what I did wrong. And that is for me, it is very good, because it helps me remember if my skills is okay, if my gear is okay, and if I have been thinking about a backup plan and things that I really would appreciate to have in any kind of situation. And when I see stories from the desert, when I read stories from the desert or from anywhere else, I try to analyze what happened in that situations, how could it have been prevented, and what kind of gear would have been nice to have in that situation, to learn to make it a study case instead of just a terrifying story from the travel world. Sometimes things happen, but we can learn from it, and we can make sure that the chances that it would happen for you or for me is less. Risk assessment, I think I already talked about it. It's like you can have a plan A and you think it's really, really good. But then you find out that something is happening, and you need to change to plan B. And that's where you have to kind of like being able through your research to identify where could the risk be, and try to make some good backup plans. And that is exactly what the next thing is about. But a backup plan can be more than that. For example, in Badirom, I was walking alone with a camel, and it was my first time. And I was a little bit nervous because he was a young camel, a very stubborn camel, and he was not used to trek in the desert. And on top of that, I was on my first solo trek. So we were really not a super good match, but we made it work. But as a backup plan, I have told my guide that I wanted him to come on day 3 to check if I was okay and to check if the camel was okay. Because when you put the saddle on the camel, you need to make sure it's right on the spine, and the wooden saddle, you have to make sure the blankets under the saddle is fine and everything is good. So he came, he found everything fine beside me, because Sahuk and I, we had been fighting a little bit on the trip. So I had a long talk with him, and after that, it really helped me. The next 3 days together with Sahuk was amazing. So even that it sounds, Rachel makes it sound like I'm just super in the desert, and I am, totally I am. But still, in any adventure, I think, there's always ups and downs, and there are moments that is really amazing, and then there are moments where you are just thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I sitting here with a stubborn camel and suffering? So there are highs and lows in everything here in life. Change to the next one. Skills in the back. Skills are the things that gonna help you when everything looks a little bit difficult. And going back to skills in the back. And I do love to learn desert skills and learn how to do things the simple way, so I don't have to rely too much on gears and all kind of fancy European stuff. I like to learn to do things the real Bedouin way. So therefore, I'm really happy and grateful that I have a great network in the desert, and they are willing to take out their time to learn me all kind of stuff, like baking bread in the sand, or navigate by landmarks, and all kind of things that Bedouins do as the most natural thing, but we others, we have to learn it slowly. And packing smart, it's about packing according to research, because sometimes, for example, Sahara Desert, everyone knows it's cold in the nighttime, and you would love to have like a sweater, a jacket, something cozy with you so you can keep warm by the fire. But if you go to Turkana and ask people what you should bring, they would say the exact same things as they say for Sahara Desert. But in Turkana, it is different. It's actually quite hot in the night, so it makes no sense to take a jacket and whatever warm with you, because you will be just carrying it around and not use it at all. On the other hand, in Sahara Desert and Wadi Rum, then I like to sleep on the ground, just on a mattress and some blankets on, and then I'm fine. And snakes, I'm not as afraid of snakes in the desert, because I have encountered one snake, I think, and that's just about it. So sleeping on the ground, it's okay. But in Turkana, for example, then you would like to bring a tent with you, because it's hot up there, but there's like mosquitoes carrying malaria, so you'd like to be protected while you're sleeping, so you don't get malaria on the way. So different deserts needs different kind of gear. So that's kind of like you have to look at your research and decide what you like to take with you, and trust your research more than what other people are saying to you. Carry on luggage only on desert trips, because if you carry a lot of stuff, you are asking the camel to carry that. And if you like animals, you don't do that. So it's a carry-on luggage only. And you can make everything fit in there. When I travel in the desert, I only have carry-on, and I have my teapot, I have my everything, my gear for the fire, and I have my clothes, I have everything with me. So it's not a problem to pack if you do it the right way. Easier fit, of course, everything is easier if you are fit. And the only thing I will say about this is, like, you have to remember that any environment that you are not used to, you have to have a couple of days to get ready for it. So in the desert, there's a rule that you have like 3 days where you have like low activity, you drink water, and then you are ready for the hike, because otherwise dehydration and heat stroke is very easy to get if you try to push yourself and you are not ready. And before embarking, then of course you will go through the route with your guide or your fixer. I didn't say that, but in Turkana I was using a fixer, not a guide, because I was hiking solo, but I had a man that I could always call and ask for help if it was needed. And so you go through your trail together with him, and you confirm if the water resources are fine and stuff like that. In Jordan, I have tried that. And Rachel, are you trying to say something to me? She's muted herself.
No, you're all good.
I'm all good. Can you tell me how long? I lost my time.
Yes, you have like 5 more minutes left.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But anyway, I used the fixture there, and on the trail, I would confirm if the water resources is still good. In Jordan, as I was trying to say before I lost my clue, then at one point, Israel was jamming all the GPS signals and made it very difficult to use GPS. Sometimes when I was in Vadirom, it would say that I was in Amman. So sometimes have to talk through this and find out, okay, I can't use a GPS. I need to use map and compass, and learn also to navigate by landmarks and read the desert and find the signs where I can move around without using a GPS. Then knowing the background of the pack animal is very important as well. Maybe it needs some kind of support. I have had one camel. I didn't know the background of the camel, and I approached it a little bit too fast. I had said hello to the camel, and everything should have been good, but it ended up kicking me in the chest. And that's what happened when you don't know the background of the camel. And if I had known that, I would have approached the camel in a different way, even on the third and the fourth time coming close to it, because it needed to get used to me. It's really a lovely camel, but it doesn't like strangers, and I was a stranger to it. And that is a magic thing happening on treks as well, that you can start out as a group of people not really knowing each other. You don't really know the camels, but as the time goes by and you work together, you end up really missing the camels after that trip. I still have camels that I would have loved to spend much more time with, because they were just funny and nice camels to be around. And then, of course, you go shopping and you repack your things and you make it balance in the baskets with the camel. So the camel is always taken care of. And also when you walk with the camel, you are always taking care of the camels first. You find the easiest way to walk with the camel. You use a lot of time to make sure that the camels are comfortable on the trek, because you know that you are kind of screwed in the desert if the camels are not feeling good. Then you are lost in the desert with all your luggage, with the camel with no desire to walk. That is not going to work. So the camels have high priorities on camel treks, and they are treated very, very well. And then, of course, like at any other trek, you are setting a return date, especially if you're walking solo. Then you need to let people know when you will return. And it's also good to let people, your family, your friends in your home country know what you're doing and where you are heading, because anything can happen, and it's good for people to know where we're going. And when you have talked the route through with your guide and your fixer, then they also know where you will be every day, just about where you will be every day. And then it's easier for them to find you if something happens. But anyway, that was a lot of talking from my part. And the only thing I will say is, no matter how old you are, go for the adventures, enjoy them. And if you'd like to talk more about deserts, then I can tell you that I actually have made a Facebook group, and hope you will join it. Okay?
That was wonderful. Oh, that was so good. Wow, what a great stories that you have. We do have some questions. So, okay. So let's go back here. Okay. So Stephanie says, how did your interest for trekking start? What is your best advice for someone else who wants to start trekking?
I started my trek. It was kind of like an accident, because I was hanging out with a friend in Morocco, and we were looking at some singing sand dunes, amazing thing that sings by themselves. And then he was asking me, what about, I'm starting a tour company. Would you be the test person to try out my trail? And I was like, yeah, let's go. And I had like ballerina shoes and nothing else with me. So that's how I walked my first 150 kilometers in Sahara Desert.
Wow.
We just went. I was not prepared at all. I did not know what happened, and I dehydrated and all kind of good stuff. Wow. Making sure I love the desert. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. The next question is, how long are these treks normally that you take? What is like the average, like how many days, like how far do you go with them?
I have started to be like, I don't want to walk less than 150 kilometers. If it's less than that, it's not worth my time, because it takes time to get used to be with the camels, with the people you're together with. It takes those 3 days to get the feeling of being a team. So it's only the last 3 days where you're feeling that everything is in a beautiful flow and you really can enjoy being there. But anybody who wants to try it out can do it for like 2 or 3 days and see if it's something for them.
Wow. That's really impressive. The next question we have from Stephanie again. She said, what are the reactions from locals when you as a woman are trekking alone? Great question.
Oh, yeah. I was actually thinking if I should talk about that or not, but I was thinking there was drama enough in the stories. But most of the time, my network is supporting me, and they're really nice. And even today, I got some videos of from somebody in Jordan saying, we need to go there and then there. So a lot of people are supportive. But I have also had people yelling at me, shouting at me, and like, you don't know what you're doing. Do you know where you are? What about the camel? And they're not even giving me a chance to answer. It's just like a lot of questions coming right after each other. So they are clearly annoyed to see me out there doing stuff that they don't think I should be doing. But
Yeah.
it's like 1% of the people I meet, but they are there.
How do you react in those situations?
In the beginning, I felt discouraged because when you are starting to learn something and you have a person shouting in your face, then it's like, whoa, do I really know what I'm doing? And then I had to check with myself, yes, I know what I'm doing. I can continue. This man is just having a bad day. And that has become my attitude from there on, that, okay, that's his problem, not my problem, because I know what I'm doing. But it takes time to get there, because in the beginning, everybody can be a little bit insecure when walking alone.
Yeah, I can imagine. Wow. This was
It's
really,
only 1% acting like that, not me.
that, you know what, that's always the way, you know, and for the most part, even in solo travel, you know, when you go to countries that might not see a lot of women or be familiar with the idea of women solo traveling in whatever capacity, that it is, you know, you do get questions. I've gotten like a lot of questions like, why would you do that? Like, don't you feel that you won't be safe? Or but I think that like curiosity is the majority of it. And a lot of times just, you know, the 1%, like you said, will be like argumentative or aggressive. It's not the majority, you know, it's mostly just questions will come sometimes out of curiosity. So very, very
Yeah, but
interesting.
also I have to remember that sometimes this person have been guides who have been having tourists with them.
Okay.
And maybe they have been telling the other tourists that this you cannot do alone. You need a guide, you need everything. And then they see me walking alone, and then he had to shout at me because what can he
Okay.
do? He has just
Yeah,
convinced a lot of people that they can't do it by themselves. So
I
that
understand.
can also be an issue sometimes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Cathrine. You really knocked it out of the park. I loved your stories. I'm sure everyone else did too. But thank you. If anyone else has any questions, go ahead, put them in the comment. And also, I have listed Cathrine's contact information as well as her group that on Facebook. So you can join that and ask questions in there and show her some support. We're just so grateful that you were here today, and thank you again.
Thank you. Glad you had me. Bye.
I am so excited to have Molly here. Molly, I came across on Instagram when her story that she's going to share with us went absolutely viral, and reached out to her and asked her if she could share it with us in our community. I think it is a topic that a lot of women do not speak on, sexual harassment. It happens to pretty much every one of us, different from sexual assault. I just want to make that quick distinction. Not everyone has experienced that, but the majority of women, especially travelers, have experienced harassment. And I felt like her story was a really good one to have her come and share. And so thank you so much, Molly, for being here with us today. And I'm going to let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I'll just share my screen with you guys. Thanks for inviting me here firstly. I'm pretty excited to be here, and it feels a little bit surreal to be speaking a little bit like on a platform like this. 6 months ago, before I started sharing my journey online, I would have never really thought I'd be doing something like this, so it's pretty cool. So just to give you a little background on who I am, I'm from New Zealand. I left home to start traveling when I was 22 a few years ago, and now solo traveling has been a massive part of my life. I've been living in London on and off, and I travel for a few months at a time, usually in Asia and parts of Africa. I've also traveled a lot around Europe. They tend to be shorter trips because I'm a young and broke traveler. But I've traveled solo through places like Morocco, Egypt, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Botswana, Vietnam, Albania, just to name a few. Usually just with a backpack, a camera, and honestly, not much of a plan. My kind of travel is not everyone's cup of tea. I've been called crazy, stupid, irresponsible, anything under the sun, really. I love an adventure that makes me feel a little bit nervous when things are a little bit uncertain. And places like Europe, beautiful places to explore. But as a young person with not a lot of money, I prefer to travel places with a little bit more of a wild and unpredictable experience where the culture shock is there and everything feels a little bit more of a challenge. And I guess you could say I travel a little bit unconventionally, and I do like to push the limits a little bit. My kind of travel philosophy is like, I understand how privileged I am to have the opportunity to experience other countries. And I feel like out of respect for these places that I explore, I should try explore them as deeply as I can. And often that means traveling like a local as much as I can. I don't want to just pass through somewhere. I want to experience the place and try have a positive impact on the people that I meet along the way. And what I've learned from starting to share my own experiences online and comparing it to other creators out there, all the travel content that we usually see is usually only the highlight reel. And I think we see the picture perfects, the sunsets, the freedom, the beautiful photos, the finding yourself moments. And don't get me wrong, those moments absolutely do exist. But I think it's important to remember that most people do romanticize travel a lot, and we do often just see the highlights. And I think now in a world with social media being at everyone's hands, a lot of my generation now are starting to do a lot of their research on places like TikTok and Instagram. And because it's pretty easy to search in the tabs, like things to do in Lisbon for the weekend. And it has changed the way we've traveled, and it has made places a lot more accessible than they have been before. But I think it's important to understand the realities of travel as well. What I've become really passionate about online is sharing the reality behind all of it, because solo travel can be very uncomfortable, lonely, overwhelming, and scary at times. And I guess everyone here knows that. I mean, the reason everyone's probably here is to elevate some of those worries, right? And I think, especially as women, there is often pressure to either pretend travel is completely safe all the time, or we get told that we shouldn't do it at all. And I think the truth sits somewhere in the middle. But obviously, traveling the way that I travel does have risks. And as a Westerner who clearly stands out, especially with my hair, there's a lot of situations that I do have to navigate carefully to keep myself safe. But today I don't want to focus too much on risks, because I'm sure that we're all aware of the risks out there. As women, we automatically exercise more caution throughout our daily lives, whether that's not walking home alone in the dark, or avoiding certain areas at night in the cities we're from, or texting your friends when you get home safely. These risks we already mitigate at home. And in many ways, I think traveling just becomes an extension of that awareness in a new environment. And I think that's what makes it scary, is that we're doing it in a new environment. And so it adds a little bit of unfamiliarity to the equation. Now, I think a lot of you might think, who am I to tell you about risk and what to worry about? I could just be young, dumb, and naive, which many people have said about me online. But after the 3 years of travel that I've done, from driving a tuk-tuk around Sri Lanka, solo hiking in the Himalayas and crossing glaciers, and hitchhiking through Morocco, just to name a few of the stupid things I've done. I've had some incredible experiences that have highlighted how amazing humanity actually is. And I think while we do see all of the highlights online, the media, so news outlets, they're the ones that share all the bad stuff. And I think media often, they operate on clickbait, and often the sad, violent, or bad news is what gets reads. So a lot of the time, the negative experiences are often what made to feel like they're a bigger problem than what they actually are, just because we read about them more often. And I think this is one of the leading factors that makes us worried as women. We see an awful article about what happens to a foreign woman in some country, and we think, wow, I'm not going to risk that. I'm not going to go to that country alone now. But I guess my challenge, and I think everyone's challenge, should be to think a little bit differently about that, because we hear many of those same stories that happen at our own homes, in our own cities, in our own countries. And I think I'm not denying that the risks are out there, but those risks are everywhere, even at home. And like I said earlier, travel is just an extension of mitigating those risks. It just changes the environment that we feel it in. I think one of the main things I've learned about solo travel is the confidence that you gain. There's a sequence of events that usually happen when you travel, and I've kind of got a little equation here. It's kind of how I think it goes. So you get to an unfamiliar place, you get some anxiety, and that equals to a new challenge. And when you complete that new challenge, you grow, you gain new confidence. And with that new confidence, you feel like you've achieved something. You've gone and done the thing that you were too scared to do. And it gives you something to be proud of. And with that new confidence, you'll be looking for the next challenge and the next and the next and so on. And I think that is how personal growth happens. It takes being uncomfortable for a little bit at the start, but you'll feel so proud afterwards. Now, the Sri Lanka story. So yes, I have had a couple of unpleasant experiences. Some of you may or may not have seen this online. It went viral on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and it was in the news as well in a few countries. So I had a run-in with a local man in Sri Lanka. I'll go into more detail about what happened shortly, about how it made me feel and how I had the courage to keep traveling afterwards. But since sharing this story online, it unexpectedly caused me to gain quite a large following on social media, which was very interesting to say the least, to have, I guess, kind of a positive outcome come from such a negative experience. But it's also given me the opportunity to use that platform to show other women what adventures we're capable of doing on our own. And that's exactly what I've been trying to do ever since. What happened in Sri Lanka was interesting, to say the least. I had just finished a month of travel and hiking in Nepal, and then I arrived in Sri Lanka, where I picked up my tuk-tuk and I spent a couple of days learning how to drive the thing, and then I hit the road. I spent nearly a month exploring the country like this, mostly on my own. About 3 days in, I met another couple of New Zealanders who were also driving around in their own tuk-tuk, and I ended up traveling with them in a convoy for a couple of days. And then we parted ways because we wanted to see different things, which honestly happens all the time when you solo travel. You meet amazing people, you spend the time that you were meant to spend with them, and then you part ways again, sometimes never to see them again. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about solo travel, is you get to meet so many cool, interesting people. But anyway, back to the story. After I said goodbye to the Kiwis, I had about a 5-hour drive ahead of me. I was taking my time because it was honestly such a beautiful drive. I had the beach on one side, I had elephants in the distance on the other, and it was just beautiful scenery. And at one point, I pulled over for a short break, and this is when a man driving past on a scooter saw me and he approached me. I just want to say quickly before I continue, if there's anyone who might be triggered by conversations around sexual harassment, I'd just suggest muting me for the next couple minutes while I talk about this. It's not graphic at all, but just wanted to give that warning ahead. And when I change to the next slide, you'll know it's safe to turn your volume back on again. So at first, he was very friendly. He was asking where I was from. We spoke about cricket because both of our countries love it. And up until this point, I was being polite and friendly because I had only had positive experiences with locals throughout my whole trip. But then the conversation started to turn a little bit weird. He kept asking where I was staying and saying the word hotel. There was a little bit of a language barrier, so I only understood parts of what he was saying, but then I understood one word very clearly, which was sex. And I remember feeling very caught off guard because I wasn't expecting it. He had seemed so polite and kind. And yeah, the feeling inside me shifted very quickly. I immediately said no, absolutely not, turned on my engine and got ready to drive away. And that's when he exposed himself to me and kept asking again and again. He never tried to touch me, and I managed to just drive away, made sure that he didn't follow me, and the adrenaline was definitely there. I kept driving until I got to the next town and pulled over and gave myself the chance to pull myself together. And at the time, I had been recording a little video update for my friends and family back home. It was my camera, my phone was on a little stand in the tuk-tuk, and so I actually ended up catching the whole interaction on camera. Which, yeah, was kind of not pleasant to say the least, to say that I actually had that whole experience videoed. But I then had the opportunity to, well, take that video to the police, which I did later. And I went back and forth about sharing this online. At this point, I had about 500 followers on Instagram, which were mostly just my friends and family from back home. And I'd just been sharing the unpolished stuff, the adventure of my trip. And then I was like, you know what? I think I am going to post this because I wanted to share the real parts of traveling. And this was a very, very real experience. And it's turned into an opportunity to support other women solo traveling. So this video began going viral. And at that point, I had media outlets in Sri Lanka contact me, asking if they could share this on the news to assist to try find the man, which at that point I also sent the video to the police. And I kind of had no hope that the police would even be able to find him. I could barely remember what stretch of road that I was actually driving on at the time. I was in the middle of nowhere in Sri Lanka. But within 4 days of me contacting them, they had actually located him and arrested him. The Sri Lankan police were amazing, and they took the matter very seriously, I think mostly because it had gained a lot of international traction, and they wanted to demonstrate that they did care about these things, especially for their tourism industry taking quite a hit. But what happened after this, up until this point, I had been quite trusting of the local men in Sri Lanka and had felt very safe around them. But obviously after this happened, that did shift quite a lot. I certainly became less friendly and approachable towards men there, which is expected. I had lost a bit of my confidence, but I still had nearly 2 months of my trip. I was going to another couple countries afterwards. So it was just something that I had to deal with. I was supposed to continue on solo for the rest of my 2 weeks in Sri Lanka, but I actually ended up meeting up with the 2 Kiwis I had met 2 days before this all happened, just because I wasn't as relaxed as I usually was. So traveling with other people put me at ease for the next following days while I kind of, got over it a little bit. And although it knocked my confidence back, after processing it and moving on from it, it's actually given me even more confidence going forwards. I think we all know the risk of traveling alone, and something like this happening didn't necessarily surprise me. But what I didn't expect was the confidence that it gave me, knowing that I could handle it and keep going anyway. The question I get asked a lot is, did it change the way that I travelled? Honestly, I don't think so. The amount of women who came forward and shared similar or even much worse stories that happen all over the world. And I think it's important to remember that these things can happen anywhere and everywhere. So as a woman, like I said earlier, we learn about these risks as part of being a woman. And I honestly think that if you're brave enough to go solo traveling in the first place, then you're probably brave enough to handle a situation like this anyway. And then there was the final piece of, obviously, this gaining so much traction online was all of the opinions from other people. I've added a few onto the slide there, and those are the very tame ones. I received awful messages, death threats, men asking for their turn next. It was pretty difficult to manage at the time, because suddenly I'd gone from nobody to someone that everyone had an opinion of, all while I was trying to enjoy my traveling. So I ended up pretty much deleting Instagram for a couple of weeks while I was traveling the Philippines island hopping, and it was the perfect way to decompress and move on from the situation. But it has made me pretty thick-skinned, and now comments like that, I don't even bat an eye at, I guess. Now, what this has taught me, and honestly, just in general, what solo travel has taught me, is that confidence doesn't usually come first. I think a lot of people look at solo travelers and assume that we must just be naturally confident people, that we're fearless, outgoing, and adventurous all the time. But I don't think that's true. I think the confidence is usually something that gets built during and afterwards. It comes after navigating the hard situations that you go through, figuring out things on your own, after getting lost and still finding your way back, after sitting alone in a hostel, feeling awkward and forcing yourself to talk to someone anyway. I think after dealing with those difficult moments and realizing that you handled them better than what you thought you would, it gives you a new sense of confidence. And that is definitely what happened with me after Sri Lanka, because although it was an unpleasant experience, I realized afterwards that I stayed calm, I trust my instincts, I didn't steal the tuk-tuk, which is what I was surprised I didn't do. But I got myself out of the situation safely, went to the police, and I continued traveling afterwards. And it definitely gave me a new level of confidence within myself, not because, something bad happened, but it was because I realized, I was capable of handling a difficult situation if it did happen. And I think that's one of the biggest things that solo travel teaches you, is that you stop seeing yourself as fragile and you realize how adaptable and how resourceful you can actually be. Because when you solo travel, there's no one else making these decisions for you, no one else solving problems, no one else pushing you outside your comfort zone. You have to do it all yourself. And over time, you slowly start proving to yourself that you can actually do quite a lot of things. And I think this experience taught me that you can take so many positives from every bad situation. Obviously, I wish it never happened, but if I'm being honest, it has led to so many conversations that I think are really important. It encouraged hundreds of women to share their stories. And even me being here today, I probably wouldn't have if that didn't happen. It's created more discussions around safety, solo women, and how women should navigate the world. And growth comes from those situations we probably never would have chosen for ourselves initially, not because the experiences are good, but what they reveal about us afterwards. And I think before I started traveling, I underestimated myself a lot and what I could cope with. And now I'm an extremely independent person, and there's probably not a lot of things that I would think that I can't do now. I guess I trust myself. I don't trust that everything will go perfectly all the time, because it definitely won't. But I trust that if things do go wrong, I know that I can figure it out. And I think that confidence starts affecting every area of your life, not just travel. You know, when you come home, you're so much more confident within yourself. You're more willing to choose different opportunities when things don't go to plan, which is, I think, a really valuable lesson to learn when you travel. I thought I'd quickly touch on how I do reduce risk. I think it's important that there's no way to remove all risk completely. That applies to life in general, not just travel. But there are definitely things that I do to help reduce risk and make me feel more confident traveling alone. The biggest one is trusting my intuition, your gut feeling. It never fails you. I think as women, we're taught not to seem rude or dramatic. And I automatically just am very polite to people. But solo travel has taught me that if something feels off, you don't need to justify leaving a situation or just being a bitch if you have to. I also will always share my location with family or friends at home, especially on long journeys. When I book hostels, I'll always check reviews just to make sure that I know I'm going to be staying at a safe place. I always try to arrive somewhere in daylight where possible. Obviously, that's a given. And avoid telling strangers that I'm completely alone, especially men. I'll often say that I'm meeting friends later or that my boyfriend is already there. Not because I'm constantly unsafe, but because it's an easy layer of protection that you have. And I don't honestly do that often, only with those that I just don't get quite the right vibes from. I also always make sure I stay connected. There's a variety of different eSIMs that you can get now so that when you land, you actually have connections straight away. And that's something I do. I might only buy a gig to start with, just so that when I land, I know that I'm not going to be stuck. I think that's a layer of security that I think is really important, especially by yourself. And downloading Google Maps offline is really, really handy because you never know when your connection might be down. And I think having your accommodation and everything saved on a map is really handy. And always carry backup bank cards. That's just a given as well. Another thing I also do is sometimes I will wear a fake wedding ring just because it can get me out of a weird situation. It just helps create a social boundary in countries where I need it. But yeah, I think the biggest thing it has taught me is that being cautious doesn't mean being fearful. There's a huge difference between living aware and living scared, I guess. I thought I'd touch on what my recommendation would be for a first good trip as a young backpacker. Southeast Asia, I think, is one of the best places in the world for a first solo trip. If you want something that feels like an adventure, solo travel can sound really intimidating before you do it for the first time. But Southeast Asia and many countries like Vietnam, they're set up in a way that makes traveling incredibly easy, even for beginners. Vietnam was my first solo trip when I was 22. There's a huge backpacking culture there, which means there are constantly other travelers moving through the same places you go. So although you arrive solo, you very rarely stay alone for long. And hostels there especially make it very, very easy. You can meet so many cool people. It's incredibly affordable there. You can stay in hostels for, just a few dollars a night. And it's a very well-traveled route. There's already so much infrastructure there to help backpackers. Apps like Hostel World have kind of changed the game. And I know you guys have touched on it briefly already. Group trips are also a great idea. It's the perfect middle ground for someone who want to go and do something by themselves, but maybe don't feel quite ready to do completely everything on their own yet, especially if you want to visit somewhere that feels a little bit more difficult to navigate independently. And I think there's definitely a lot of creators online now who all do group trips, and it's a great way to, if there's a specific adventure that you want to go on online, you can find creators that might be like-minded to you, and so you can sign up to their group trips. Like I'm hosting a couple of group trips in Kyrgyzstan this year, hopefully some in the Sumatran jungle next year, as well as some conservation trips in South America. So have a look online and see if there's any creators out there who do something that you would be interested in. And obviously everyone feels awkward at first. We all know that everyone's in the same boat. So I think it's just important to remember that we all feel that way. The girl pictured here on the right, Emma, I met her on my second day in Vietnam, and I ended up traveling the whole 2 weeks with her. So you can meet some friends of a lifetime out there. But yeah, just a little recap on what solo travel has taught me. Confidence is built. Fear and freedom can coexist. How am I doing for time? I think I've only got a summary to do. So in conclusion, rather than going through everything, I thought I'd just highlight some of the epic adventures that I've done, that I've been able to do because I wanted to go solo. So I hiked for 3 weeks in the Himalayas all by myself, went up to Everest Base Camp and crossed various glaciers in the region. I got my scuba license in Sri Lanka. I learned how to freedive properly in the Philippines. Hitchhiked through Morocco. I summited North Africa's highest peak, and I spent a week deep in Sumatra's jungle. And I've collected many different badges on my backpack over the last few years. But yeah, if you want to, you can follow along my adventures with me. I'm about to quit my office job and go traveling full time in a couple of months, and I'll be going through Central Asia, starting in Kyrgyzstan, going through many of the stans, and finishing in Pakistan. So yeah, if you want to follow along, please don't hesitate to reach out. I always respond to messages about solo travel for women. So yeah, thank you.
Molly, thank you so much for sharing. That was absolutely incredible. I have enjoyed following along and going through some of your previous videos before you went viral, because the real stuff for me was, yes, I think that this conversation is really important, but that's not all that you're known for. I mean, the conclusion of what you just showed us, in that small snapshot, is really who you are, and that needs to be celebrated. And thank you for being so brave to share your story, not only with us, but to go on Instagram or TikTok and post that, and take all of that negative feedback. I mean, that is very intimidating. I mean, I personally would not want to experience not just the event, but the aftermath of it. So you really have blown us all away today with your story, and just just to touch on the part about trusting yourself, like learning how much you can trust yourself after some of these incidents that, and I'm sure that trust wasn't just built from that one story that you shared with us, but also like climbing Mount Everest, like being like all of the things that you've done, right? Like it's built up to this point where when something, negative does happen, that you got your own back, like you've already put deposits into that account, right? That trust account.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. We have people that are saying thank you for sharing your story. And then we have a question that said, have you been back to Sri Lanka? And if not, will you ever go back?
I haven't been back to Sri Lanka. I've got too many places that I want to go to first before I go back to countries that I've already been. I don't think I'll go back anytime soon, but not because of that incident. I still loved my time in Sri Lanka. It is an amazing country. The locals there are incredible, and that action from one man does not define the country at all. I had so many amazing experiences with local men there, so it's not a representation of what the country is actually like.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. And, Sri Lanka is definitely on my list of places to go. And, I think you even mentioned in the beginning that, these kinds of things can happen right in your own city. And I had shared with you in our previous conversation before the summit that, in my city during my workday, I went for coffee across the street in New York City in Midtown. And I was just waiting for coffee, and I just happened to turn around, and there was a man that came straight for me, and he like exposed himself right in broad daylight in a cafe in New York City where I was living, and just going out for a coffee during my workday. And the cafe was full of people, and so I wasn't the only person that he approached too. So I don't know that there could have been tourists, right? Like, in that cafe that had that experience about New York City and was like, oh my God, like, don't ever go to New York City. Like, this happened. But, I lived there for 20 years, and that's not a representation of all men in New York City, right? Like most men would be absolutely disgusted by that behavior. So, but yeah, so like these things can happen, and it's always just, I think too, like you just highlighted so many, like extra precautions that women have to take just even in their day-to-day life that men don't normally. And so it's just always good that you follow the same safety protocols that you would in your own country or your own city when you go anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And also too, like I find as Westerners, going to a non-Western country, a lot of times people are so much more kinder and way more willing to help.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a big kind of misconception that like, oh, these countries are so unsafe for a woman, when the reality is the majority of people are so absolutely helpful and welcoming and generous with their time, and even inviting you into their home and just, really making you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Probably the most kindness I've ever experienced is countries like Sri Lanka, completely, especially in rural areas where they don't see a lot of Westerners. So when they do see you, they're like, come into my home, have tea with me. They want to hear your story and learn about you. And they want to show that they're proud to be really hospitable people.
That's really awesome. I have one question. What in that kind of a situation, obviously you went to the police afterward. Is there anything in hindsight that if an experience was to happen to you again, or if somebody was to experience that for the first time, what would you tell them to do immediately?
Like in the actual physical situation itself?
Yeah.
I think I didn't go to the authorities straight away. It was kind of an afterthought, which was kind of interesting for me. I worked for the police back home in New Zealand, so I found that response from me quite interesting. But I think it was because I was in such a rural area, and I didn't even think that they'd be able to find him. And so I didn't go to the police straight away. And I didn't think in a country like that they would take this matter so seriously. But, after I shared it online, and the Sri Lankan media posted it, then I decided to contact the police. But I probably wish that I did contact the police as soon as it happened. It's probably one of the things that I would have changed.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, like, we can sometimes experience shock in the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And you go into fight or freeze mode. Right. And so I know even in my own life, I've had situations where in hindsight, I would be like, oh, I should have done this. I should have, but your nervous system just kind of shuts down. And then like, you're just trying to protect yourself in the moment. Yeah.
I think I could have been a lot more firm as well. But I think I had only had so many positive experiences with local people already, and this man came across so kind and gentle, so it caught me off guard. And like even the way that I said no was still nice. So I wish I had just been being a little bit more firm with my words, I guess. But it just caught me off guard.
Well, it all worked out, and we met through that. I know I don't ever like to say that everything happens for a reason, because sometimes things happen to us that there's just no explanation for. But I am very happy to have met you, and I'm so happy that you shared with us today and are part of our community. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Okay. All right. Well, I am going to give everyone a quick bathroom break before we welcome in Nicola. She is in Morocco, and she runs a tour company in Morocco, which at the end, we are also going to be talking about our Morocco trip that's coming up, our group trip, and Nicola is going to be leading boots on the ground there, and we're very, very excited. To have her. So if anybody needs to go take a quick bathroom break, we will, or get something to drink or something like that. We're going to move things along as quickly as possible. But yes, people are saying thank you so much, Molly, for sharing. So kind of you. If anyone in the meantime would like to come on and introduce yourself and share anything, feel free to take this time too. If you're still at your computer or your phone, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you to everyone for staying and participating. So much appreciated, you guys. As much as I'm saying thank you to the speakers, thank you for the participants, for being here and for hearing our stories. It's just really been such a great day. How many of you are enjoying the day so far? You can unmute yourself or you can just type in the chat.
It's been great. Thank you for putting this on.
Yay! I'm so happy. I love this group so much. It's like, travel is such a great industry to be in anyway, because it's just fun. There's just so many things to talk about. And who doesn't want to travel, right? And then I come from a very male dominated background of my job career. So the majority of my work has been with men, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that now that this has kind of become more my focal point with women, I adore it so much. And I adore hearing your stories. I adore hearing what you have going on. And I'm a huge advocate for women just living their best life and not giving any care to what other people think, because I am very much like that myself. If I decide to do something, I just go for it. Like, I just figure out a way and go straight to it. And it might take me a little bit of time, but I'm going to get there. So I am a big girl's girl and a big supporter of women. And I know some of you on this call have some pretty exciting adventures coming up. So if anyone wants to share what they have coming up, or maybe a recent trip, feel free to share with us.
I'll share quickly if I can. This is Kay or Kaylee from Alberta, Canada. So yeah, so I did my first solo trip in February of this year. I decided to take a cruise for 10 days, leaving a little bit early. So I was gone 13 days, all by myself. I packed my bags, and I went on an adventure. I got to the airport, and it was, it was a little, I was a little nervous. But I sat there. I ended up missing a flight, I was late departing Edmonton. So then I got to Toronto and I missed a flight, not due to anything I did. It was just the way it was with the airlines. So had I been with my kids or other people, I would have had to entertain, myself and others for, 5-6 hours. But I just sat in a chair and I'm like, okay, I missed my flight. No big deal. I sat in a chair and I said to myself, like, wow, I'm all by myself and I'm going to have like 5 extra hours to myself to do whatever I want to do at the airport. And I sat there and I listened to podcasts and, listened to music, read a book, and it was just me time. And it was something I've never experienced before. And I ended up getting into Miami and I had a couple days there. And I did get out of the hotel and went for walks and stuff. Not too far, but I did. So that was good. And then I went down to the ship and hopped on the ship all by myself, which was a weird experience because, again, I'm used to traveling with family. However, I did it. I got on the ship, got to my room and unpacked, and I ended up, spending that 10 days by myself, doing what I wanted to do, choosing where I wanted to go and what excursions I wanted to be on. And I did pick an excursion at every port, for the simple fact that I'm kind of an introvert sometimes when I'm by myself, so it forced me to get off the ship and meet people, and go to places that, I hadn't been to before. So that was good for me. And then I also chose not to get a balcony suite on the ship. This was my fourth cruise, first one alone, and I purposely did that so that I would force myself out of my room and not just stay there for 10 days by myself. And then I forced myself, to go to shows and that kind of thing and meet some people. There was also a solo group on that ship, so we got to meet at 5:30 p.m. every day if we so choose, to like have a half an hour discussion or play games or whatever, and that was a good way to meet people. There's lots of solo travelers on cruise ships. And then we had a choice to go for supper. We could sign up to go for supper with the group. So the first night there was 24 of us that went together for supper, sitting in a group of, 8 people. And then I went to that supper probably about, 5 times out of the 10 kind of thing. And then I did branch off and go for supper twice at 2 different dinners with a couple of ladies, and then went for supper and, breakfast and lunch and stuff by myself. Mainly, I think I went out for supper by myself in the dining room, but mainly I went to the buffet, which was just easiest for me. So anyways, I guess I'm sharing my quick story to let other women know that are on the call. If you haven't done a solo trip, I was one that didn't think I could do it myself, and I did it. So I'm just trying to encourage other women that, we only have one life to live. I did turn 50 in March, so this trip was kind of a happy birthday for my 50th. And I did it, and you can too. So anyways,
That's
have a
awesome.
great day.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love birthday trips. And thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it and for being here today.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to get Nicola on the call now and have her talk about how to stay connected while you're traveling. So thank you so much. Oh my goodness.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
Here I am. How are
It's
you?
so lovely to see you. I am doing wonderful.
Thank you. Good.
Yes. So go
Just-
ahead. Go ahead and share with us.
So I would say thanks to Rachelle and hello to everybody. It's a pleasure to be able to talk at the first Soul Sisters Global Summit today. And what a fabulous name for such a fabulous group of intrepid women travelers. Hopefully it'll be the first of many opportunities to share some of my experience with you all. I'm currently traveling around Morocco. Maybe you can see in the background there, I'm in a lovely riad in Taroudant in Morocco. And so I have thought a lot about solo, safe, and not scared. And I hope that you will all take away at least one thing from my talk today. So just first of all, a little bit about myself. As Rachelle said, my name's Nicola. I'm the co-founder of Moroccan Madness Adventures, a tour company that I set up with my business partner about 7 years ago. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you some of my tips and tricks for staying safe while you travel. So I moved from the UK to Morocco after a very brief holiday here, having fallen in love with the country and its people. My move was quite sudden, and whilst it was the right decision, I do remember the first few months being in a permanent state of anxiety, having to give myself like a task to do every day just to get myself out the door. I remember feeling terrified every time I set foot out of my apartment, feeling like I was naked and like all eyes were on me and every shout was directed just at me. A lot of things have happened to me in my time here,
that have maybe made me feel a bit anxious or concerned, but I have never felt afraid or unsafe or in danger. It's not like that for me anymore. So in the last 7 years, things have become familiar. I don't have that same level of anxiety, and I don't feel that fear, I suppose, when I leave my apartment. But that comes from familiarity. So when I'm traveling around the country now, I know where I'm going, I know people, I know where things are. Since I started Moroccan Madness 7 years ago, I've hosted a few women's groups. Women have become world travelers, and many are traveling on their own, although perhaps sometimes also in small groups. I think we place a lot of focus on traveling alone, but in many respects, you can travel on your own and still be in the company of other people. So women are looking for safe places and safe ways to travel. And I think women are becoming more informed about their travel. So I think feeling unsafe is often about a perception rather than the actual reality. And part of the reason that we travel is to experience unfamiliar cultures. I have come to realize that a certain amount of fear is healthy. It helps us to look out for ourselves, and it helps us deal with the fear. It helps us, the way that we deal with it is changing. So when we're moving around from unfamiliar place to unfamiliar place, we're in a constant state of high alert, and that can be exhausting. So we're not very good, though, I think, at listening to what our bodies are telling us when they say, enough is enough, take a break and recharge. Some days for me, a bar of chocolate and a movie is what's called for, not another visit to an archaeological site. If you're tired and not at your best, that is when things can unravel. So when someone asks me, is it safe? Particularly, is it safe in Morocco? Because I get asked that all the time. I feel like what they're really saying is it familiar? Like, will I understand it? Will I know what to do? And will I know where to go? And often the answer to that is no. But in many ways, isn't that the point? Isn't that the point of why we travel, why we go to these places? Is because it's different. So many places are more chaotic, perhaps they're louder, they're not like home at all. They require us to pay attention, to take more care, to try to understand not just the language, but the culture too. Whereas, of course, at home, everything is simple and familiar. I think we often confuse discomfort with danger. And of course, we're predisposed to be afraid when we feel danger. You need to hold on to that discomfort for long enough that it starts to feel familiar. Like for me in Morocco, when I first came here, everything was very unfamiliar. But as time went by, I became more familiar with what was going on around me. Understand the difference between being annoyed or frustrated against actually feeling like you're in any kind of danger. So understand yourself and maybe the type of traveler that you are, and plan your trip accordingly. That way, before you even leave home, you're already preparing to have a fantastic trip. For me, the starting point is about understanding yourself as a traveler. What works for you? For example, what kind of country do you want to visit? What are your needs? Do you need all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed? Or are you the sort of traveler who can book your first night and wing it from there? How do you travel best? How far do you want to go? Is solo travel for you at all? Or should you start maybe with a small group of like-minded women who've maybe traveled to that destination on their own, but have chosen to travel within that country or that city with a group of like-minded people? Starting with this and understanding yourself as a traveler can point you in the direction of some practical steps that you can take in order to feel safe. So let's start with situational awareness and have a look at things you can do before you leave home. So for me, smart travel safety begins long before you get on the flight. Research forms the cornerstone of confident travel, especially as a woman traveling alone. So what neighborhoods are safe? What neighborhoods are not safe? What are the local women wearing? What's the weather going to be like? Are there any scheduled events, maybe festivals happening while you're there? Maybe you don't want to be in Morocco, for example, during Ramadan, or maybe you do. And without the research and the planning, you won't know that it's happening. It can also help to keep up to date with government travel advisories when making your travel plans, so that you're aware of any developments or specific incidents in real time. And using travel forums and other women's forums and communities will help set the context for your trip. These forums often have real-world insights from fellow travellers who've been there and done that. And there are so many of them now. And maybe you can contribute towards those forums also, help other women to make choices and decisions about where they want to travel. So while you're there, while you're in that country, know what's going on around you and pay attention, especially to your belongings. Keep your pockets and bags zipped up, the sort of things you would do at home, and watch out for those distraction techniques. You know, there are people out there who are looking for always at ways where they can get the better of you. So pay attention. Walk like you know where you're going. Confidence is so important. Keep your head up and familiarize yourself with routes before you leave. If you need to, maybe duck into a shop or a public place to remind yourself where you're going. Because if you're stopping every 5 minutes along the way to look at your phone, you're just making yourself stand out as someone who doesn't know where they are. In many countries also, of course, and this particularly I think applies in Morocco, you'll find yourself the subject of people's interest. People are very curious here. They maybe stare at you, maybe they point at you, maybe they even talk about you. But look for the positives in those things, as well as being challenging. That can also bring a different kind of safety. So if you fall, maybe someone will rush over to help you because they saw it. If somebody grabs your phone and runs off with it, maybe somebody else will chase after him. So, people notice in these kind of cultures. So it's not always a bad thing that people are noticing what's going on. So for me here, a top tip, travel with an open mind and make sure you're informed about where you're going. So moving on to accommodation safety. So this is probably one of the biggest topics, bearing in mind that wherever you go, you need somewhere to stay. So before you leave home, again, talking about planning is everything. Check things out before you go. Choose some reputable booking sites. Maybe you have your favorites. Use reputable hotels or hostels and try to book places in centrally located places. Those that are maybe close to main attractions, close to transport options. If you're thinking about using hostel or dormitory style accommodation, opt for female only. Check out for security features. So you can look at pictures on booking.com, for example. You will notice maybe cameras in certain accommodations, or perhaps they have safes or lockable doors even from the inside. You can check that out before you go. You can ask questions of the accommodations before you leave, and before you book, always try to read the most recent reviews and from different sites. Because then you're more likely to get a rounded opinion or a rounded view of that accommodation, especially, of course, reviews from other women who will often talk about security measures, who will often talk about how they felt in that particular accommodation or that place. And you can be that person also that leaves that review for the next woman that's coming along. Did you feel safe? Was it comfortable? Was the location good? All of those things that maybe you wouldn't think to normally say in your review. It helps other women to choose safely. Choose your locations in well-lit, busy areas, and if at all possible, where there's a 24/7 reception. So then there's always somebody there when you're coming and going. Preferably ask for a room on a higher floor, but try to make sure that your room number is not like openly discussed when you're having that conversation with the reception. Check out the accommodation on Google Street View maybe before you go. That way, when you get there, you will recognize it, but also before you even go, you will know what kind of a neighborhood it's in and maybe what else is around you. You know, sometimes you can tell a lot by the neighboring facilities of an accommodation, if it's a hotel, for example. At least book your first night's accommodation and possibly a transfer from your wherever you're arriving to the airport or the port if you're on a boat. When you arrive, you're likely to be tired and maybe also disorientated a little bit. You're in a completely new place. If you have already made a reservation, it's one less thing to worry about, and you are more likely to make a sensible choice or decision from the comfort of your own home. At least then, as I say, you don't have to worry about when you arrive, where you're going to go, where you're going to stay. Sometimes also, and this does also apply in Morocco, when you arrive at immigration, they will ask you for the address of where you're staying. So it's another reason to have something prepared for your first night there. Whilst you're there, if it's at all possible, arrive at your accommodation or where you're going in daylight. Give yourself time to like scope out the area. Okay, so you've looked online before you got there, but when you're actually there, you get the sounds, the smells, and you can see what's going on around you. If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And whilst maybe sometimes we don't listen enough to that inner voice, to that gut feeling that says, actually, this is not comfortable. I don't feel safe here. There's something going on that I don't like. We choose not to do something about that when really what we should do is just move. I think we have to remember that polite is never more important than being safe. There are also some practical things that you can do to make your accommodation feel safer. So, for example, you can bring maybe a door wedge that fits under the door from the inside so that from the outside you can't open the door. These also come with battery-operated alarms, so it alerts you to the fact that someone's trying to open the door. Maybe also a portable door lock for some extra security will just help you to feel a little bit more safe in that hotel room. If you use one, it stops anyone from coming in, even if they have a key. So it's a really useful and small, like portable thing that you can bring with you on your trip. I would also recommend taking a photo or a screenshot of your accommodation's address and the contact phone number. This can help what is a worrying situation if you get lost and you can't find your way back there into just a phone call, and somebody will either come and help you or direct you back to the accommodation. I think personally it's a good idea to let staff or at least maybe one member of staff in a hotel know that you're traveling on your own. Make them aware of your daily plans, perhaps when you're expected back roughly, and a rough idea maybe of even where you're going. I think you need to be careful when you do that you're not exposing yourself to other people hearing that conversation. But, you know, when you're traveling alone, I think it's good that at least somebody knows where you're going and when you're expected back. Finding a place to stay when you're traveling on your own is not just about price or location. It's about how safe and comfortable you feel once you arrive and once you close the door behind you. And over time, for me, having booked and stayed in many different accommodations, particularly in Morocco, but, you know, all around the world, is as a solo female traveler, it's not so much about star rating as it is about reading between the lines of available information and also trusting your own instincts. As we said, if it doesn't feel safe, then it probably isn't. There's a reason why you have that gut feeling, that gut reaction. Safe accommodation isn't really finding the perfect place. It's about reducing any uncertainty or any risk that you may feel. So if the place doesn't feel right, my top tip It probably isn't, so move. From accommodation, we look at transport. Again, it's another big part of any trip. You're going to be perhaps taking public transport, you're going to be flying to these places, maybe taking taxis when you're there. So my suggestion is that you make these reservations before you leave home. It's quite easy these days to reserve transport, make bookings for transfers when you arrive in the airport, and then you know that someone will be there to meet you and take you to your accommodation. Because when you arrive, you are, after a long journey, maybe tired, maybe not thinking straight, a little bit disorientated. So it's nice to know that you have a plan. If you're renting a car when you're on your trip, then again, book it before you go. Check out your insurance is valid and all of those kind of safety things. Read up on the rules of the road of where you're going. Driving it can be scary in other places. Mainly, I think, because we don't really understand the sort of atmosphere of driving, because I think we can all drive a car. They're all the same wherever you go, really. But it's the way that people drive. And if you can read up about that before you go, it will help you again to feel familiar, that kind of familiarity that we were talking about before. It's especially important, I think, in countries like here in Morocco. They have a lot of police stops on the roads. Is nothing, it's normal. But knowing that and knowing the drill, knowing what you need to do, the documents you need to provide, all gives you that level of kind of confidence to get in a car. It's a good idea also to organise your driving route so that you know where you're going, and highlight your gas stations along the way so that you don't get in that situation of running out of fuel. Also, on your flights, take care of your bags in the airport and through security as far as you possibly can. Try not to accept help with luggage, because that will either cost you literally, in that you'll have to pay for that help, or you may lose your luggage altogether. So, just be careful. Many women, interestingly, on flights apparently opt for aisle seats. That's something I didn't know, but it seems like women prefer the easy exit, the get out quickly way. So book your seat before you go. While you're there, maybe you're using taxis. So perhaps you would be using a pre-booked taxi when they arrive. Sometimes it's like natural to say your name, but you're giving them a clue. They can just say yes. If I say, Nicola, is this taxi for Nicola? They will then know your name. They may just say yes. So try to say, who are you here to pick up? Or, check out maybe the license plate. A lot of the taxi apps now, if you book taxis through them or hotels, they will give you like a taxi number, a license plate number, or some way that you can identify that you're getting into the right taxi. Maybe whilst you're driving in the taxi, you can use the features of the app to share your live route. You can either do that with a trusted family member or perhaps a friend back home that you have contact with. And you can follow the route on your phone as you go and kind of watch which way you're going to see where the driver is taking you. Again, I think it's a good idea to try and arrive in these places in the daylight. Somehow, I think everything looks different in the daylight. Moving on to public transport. So I think it's a good idea to familiarise yourself again with the routes of the public transport in the areas that you're going to, the timetables, and also check methods of payment, because sometimes, you need to prepay a ticket. Maybe you need to get a few tickets in advance or somehow prepay your ride. And when you're on public transport, try to keep your valuables close to you. So maybe you have a bag with your money in, your cards in, or the things that you need to carry around with you, rather than putting them in overhead storage containers or lockers or whatever they have. Try and keep them close. Again, back to rental cars, we're talking about gas. Keep your gas tank half full. If you get stuck anywhere in traffic or even on a long road, maybe that you haven't anticipated, that there won't be any gas stations, and you avoid then the running out of fuel. Take the breakdown cover. Make sure you've got the emergency contacts easily accessible, so that if anything were to happen, you know who to contact, you know how to contact them. And when you're parking in well-lit areas, and try to back into spaces so that you have the option just to pull straight out, rather than being cornered by somebody or maybe another car. Taking a location pin of your parking place is also a really good idea. You can easily find your car, because even sometimes in a supermarket, you maybe go in one door, you come out a different exit, and you can be disorientated about where you parked your car. If you pin the location, it's really easy to get back to your car. Generally speaking, if you're on public transport with fellow passengers and you're having a conversation, which is great, maybe just think about the amount of sensitive information that you might be sharing with them on your way. Okay, so that's transport. Let's talk about health safety. So before you go home, maybe put together a basic travel first aid pack, including some pain relief or the usual kind of diarrhea and vomiting medication. But also, importantly, if you take regular medication, put that together for a carry-on bag for your flight, for your journey, and for your immediate arrival. The last thing you need is not to have that medication with you, either on your journey or when you arrive. Another thing that I have found from managing trips here in Morocco is people with allergies. If you're allergic, especially to food, it's a really good idea to get a sentence written on a piece of paper in the language of the country so that you can share that with staff in a restaurant. Then you will avoid any doubt or confusion about why you can't eat a certain food of a certain thing. Take prescriptions written down if you have medications of regularly. If you need medical assistance, then you can easily share that information with anyone that's helping you. And with your travel insurance, make sure you put the details into your phone. If you have an emergency situation, maybe you want to be able to give that information to somebody. And with the travel insurance, of course, that's important. Okay, so while you're in the country, drinking, of course, we all know we need to drink water, but especially if you're in a hotter country, you need to drink more. Remember, sometimes even brushing your teeth in a foreign country is not advisable with tap water. Always assume that tap water is not safe, and maybe take a bottle so that you can reuse that bottle with mineral water. So wash your hands regularly. Take wet wipes with you, maybe hand sanitizers, all of those things that will help where there are no hand washing facilities, or maybe limited facilities. Enjoy yourself, enjoy a drink, but maybe especially when you're on your own, avoid drinking too much alcohol. It does make you vulnerable, whichever way you look at that. So I think that's a good tip. Slip, slap, slop. Don't forget your sun cream, your sun hat, your sunglasses, maybe some obvious things, but I think sometimes you can easily forget. You maybe take them with you on the trip and then you leave them in the hotel room. Try to avoid contact with animals, especially abroad. Sometimes there are diseases, like here in Morocco, some animals have rabies, so it's a good idea to keep away. Okay, that's health. Moving on to digital tools. There are a lot of them, and I'm sure that many of you have your favorites. It's one way of keeping really well connected. I have my favorite top 10 that cover things like navigation, safety, emergency help in communication. It's a great idea to install all of those before you go, and when you arrive, make sure they're working. I'm not going to tell you what my favorites are. As I say, I'm sure you have your own. Emergency planning, of course, is also really important, and it comes back to what I was talking about earlier about being prepared. Taking out travel insurance, we've talked about already, so important. Taking copies of your important documents and keeping them in a safe place, and maybe sharing them with someone at home. Checking out emergency contacts in the country that you're in. There are a couple of apps actually that make that really easy. And keeping cash in small amounts, cards in different places, those kind of things that, like, if you lose a small amount of cash, it doesn't matter. But if you lose it all, you're in trouble. So top tip for emergency planning: turns a crisis into a manageable event that you are in control of. So probably one of the most important. In summary, for me, the world isn't a postcard or a warning label. It's a complicated human place. Travel with your eyes open and leave your biases and assumptions at home if you truly want to experience everything it has to offer. My one piece of advice for solo and safe but not scared is preparation. Prepare in advance and you will give yourself the best chance to feel confident and have the most amazing trip ever. Thanks for listening. Time for any questions.
Thank you so much for all of those tips. If there's anyone who has any questions, please put them in the comment section. But wow, there were a lot of takeaways there that I feel like everyone can benefit from. And even if all these things, a reminder is like really good. And I think that, you're so right. Preparation is everything. And I just actually spoke to a friend recently who was going on a trip with a group of people, but I said, you need to make sure that you know the local emergency contact number. And you mentioned this in your presentation because, for some of us, in North America, it's not 911 everywhere, right? So or whatever. So you need to research those things because you just never know. An emergency happens. We don't plan for those things. So, but we can plan for emergencies, right? Yeah.
I think you can prepare, if you think that, I guess there are endless things that are possible. So there's maybe a limit to what you can do, but there are some things that you can prepare that make things a little bit easier if in the event of those emergencies for me.
Yeah. And I would advise to always get traveler insurance for traveling because you will be happy that you got it when you find yourself in a situation where you'll need it.
It's a bit like the umbrella.
Yes.
You get your umbrella in the hope it won't rain. You get your travel insurance in the hope that you won't need it.
Absolutely. Also, that interesting what you said about the aisle seat with women. I didn't know that, but just
neither did I.
I always choose the aisle seat. And it is because the first thing I think of is, especially on a long flight, is I don't want to be crawling over anyone, to get to toilets or to, never even really thought about it in the case of an emergency. And I guess, I don't know if I want my mind to wander there, but
no. No, sometimes you open a can of worms, don't you? And you think to yourself, maybe not.
Yeah, but no, that is interesting that I would always just book an aisle seat, just out of instinct. Yeah. So, if there are no questions, did everybody enjoy Nicola's talk? And what was your biggest takeaway? Drop that in the chat. We are going to have our last speaker in a few minutes, but thank you so much, Nicola, for being here. I know you're very busy with your touring, and I look forward to our group trip to Morocco. It's going to be amazing.
I am looking forward to it too.
Yes. And Morocco is, as I've said over and over again, it's so near and dear to my heart. It is like home to me, and it was for 4.5 years. And just such a beautiful, wonderful place. And I would say that probably, like, even living there with myself and my young daughter, I felt very safe in Morocco. It can be very chaotic and overwhelming. But what you said earlier was, trying to decipher whether a place is safe, or if you're just annoyed, or if it's just
Yeah,
overwhelming, right? Because
yeah.
overwhelming is not unsafe, right? So
No,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
And
and
it's
so.
understanding the difference. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so Morocco is probably, it's one of my top favorite countries. And it's just, yeah, it's so welcoming. People are very generous there, and it is very
Mm,
safe. I've been all over Morocco, like after having lived
mm.
there for 4.5 years, lived in Marrakesh, which was a very, very busy city and a lot
Yeah,
going on, people coming from all over the world. I mean, Morocco is a huge tourist destination, and I
yeah.
never had any issues with safety. So
No.
highly recommend Morocco if you're up for an
Yeah.
adventure that maybe
Mm,
stretches you. It is a safe place. It's a very safe
yeah,
place. Yeah.
indeed. And I would highly recommend it too, of course, not just because I run a business here, but the country itself, it's definitely worth a visit for anyone who's interested
Yes.
in traveling. There's so much here,
Yep.
anything for everyone. So yeah,
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Your talk was amazing. Thank
welcome.
you so much for your contribution.
Thanks, Rachelle.
Okay, so we are going to have our last speaker. Unfortunately, she was not able to join us live because she is from Singapore, and it is wee hours of the morning, probably like 2 or 3 a.m. there. So she did a video for us, and this one is very special to me because did you know that you can actually choose your destination of your vacation or where you want to live next based on your astrological birth chart? I did not know this. And what a cool thing. I ended up finding Natalia through Instagram and started following her and ended up taking her course. And oh my God, it was so amazing. By dropping my birth details into a online service, it gave me what's called astrocartography and showed me all the lines based on the time I was born, the date and time I was born, and where I was from. That showed me where different things would be activated in my life. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. And I thought that I would have her come and share. So she has agreed to that. And we're going to do a video.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalia, the founder of Astronaut. It is a astrocartography and travel astrology company, and Rachelle has very kindly invited me to speak at her travel summit today for the Soul Sisters Global Network. And I'm here to talk a little bit about astrocartography, what it means, how it can help you improve your lives by helping you unlock the best places in the world based on your birth chart, for those of you who understand and know about astrology. Okay, because everyone has a different birth chart, which is unique to your own birth time. And based on that chart, it will activate different places in the world that are most supportive for different life goals that you have, such as career, love, family, friendships, or retirement even. So there's so many ways and applications for astrocartography, and I hope by the end of this session you will know more about it. You are excited to apply it to your own lives, and I can help you be more educated about this fascinating subject. Let's begin. So there's a reason why we feel different emotions or experiences at different places in the world. There's a reason why we are attracted or drawn to different locations, and why we keep going back to the same vacation spots and holiday destinations again and again and again, because we just feel so comfortable there, right? There's a reason for that. So this is just a sample of how we feel in different parts of the world, because there are certain planetary lines that are crossing different continents, cities, and countries, and that will activate different types of energies based on the planetary significations in your chart. So the flavor is different, right? The way the planet manifests and express its energies are also very different. That's why in some places we feel better, and in some places we feel worse. So yes, this is just a system of how different locations interact with different parts of your chart. And it's very personal, it's very customized, and nobody has the same birth chart. So we experience the same place differently as well. So Paris may be good for some people, it may not be good for some people because of different factors and lines that are crossing Paris based on their chart lines. Okay, so you have to travel very strategically because depending on where you go, you might experience different things. So in astrocartography, we always look at the 4 main points, which is your rising sign. It's usually in the 1st house. It could also be in the 12th house, and it rules how people perceive you, your physical body, your physical self, first impressions. MC is your fame line, what you're known for your career, for your job, anything that is public facing, your contributions to the world, what you're publicly known for. Descendant usually means one-to-one relationships, long-term partnerships. It could be romantic, business, legal, just anything that has to do with other people in general. So that's the descendant line. And of course, IC, it's your home point. It's where you feel nurtured, you feel comfortable, you feel emotionally secure. So that is where your roots are, your belongings are. So these 4 points will change and they will land in different signs depending on where you go. So it's very important to make sure that where these 4 points shift to and which signs are ruled by your strongest planets and not your weakest planets. Okay? So it all depends on, again, the planetary conditions, your strongest, your weakest planets. And from there, we can kind of shift your chart and pick places in the world for you that can activate things like your identity, your relationships, creativity, growth, love, family, a safe place for your children, many things, right? You can also use it to activate career lines without even moving there, which I'll talk about later. So that's called remote activation. All right. So depending on when you go, certain planets' energies gets louder, it gets more pronounced if it's in a stronger house. And some of the planets will be slightly more muted and weaker, depending on which houses you put them in and how it relates to the 4 points, like I've mentioned. Okay, and I just want to clarify something. There's no such thing as, a sun line is always good for you. So just move to a sun line on the midheaven for fame and fortune. If your sun in your natal chart is not strong, you shouldn't move to a sun line in the 10th house because you'll be ridiculed. You'll face a lot of power struggles in your public life, right? So it all depends on your natal chart, how the original placements are behaving, and from there we can kind of regulate and balance them out. Okay, so no line is good or bad. We cannot generalize the planets like that because some people do better on their Saturn, on their Mars line than on their Venus or their Jupiter lines, which are usually seen as the better, more lucky planets, therefore more positive lines. But that's not necessarily true. Okay, like I mentioned, there's a lot of stereotypes and simplified definitions for astrocartography. And because this affects your experiences, it affects your life, physically speaking, as well as emotionally, it's very important to get it right, all right? So you need to go to a good astrocartographer, or you can study it yourself first and test your knowledge without having to move there even. All right, so I just want to show you quickly. Look at his chart here in Africa, right? When we look at his map in the world, it will look something like this. These are his lines across the world. He moved to California to start his companies, and look at the lines that are there for him. Look at the lines that are there for him. He has a Jupiter line right across on the MC. He has a Neptune line as well. His Jupiter is pretty strong. His Jupiter is quite strong. That's why when he went there, everything started to happen for him, right? Because Jupiter in his chart is quite benefic. It's very strong and beneficial for him. So when he goes there, things just took off for him. Okay, so it's near his Jupiter and it's near his Neptune as well. And it's also near his Saturn. So we always look at, many different things. We also have the horizontal lines called latitude crossings. All right. So latitude crossings are also very important because, say, if you cannot travel internationally, you can only travel within a country, then the latitude lines would really affect your experience based on how high or how low you go, north or south, okay? Because they have different flavors. They have different meanings for each line and each midpoint, as we call it, because it's a blend of two energies, two planetary energies. So his chart, say, for example, in San Francisco, is very different from his chart in Africa. All right. So I'm just gonna take it out again. I'm not sure why it's not showing. So yeah, look at his chart in California as opposed to his chart in Africa. Look at how the planets moved, right? It moved all the way, that Uranus moved all the way down to the 3rd house, and then that Jupiter and Neptune are on the midheaven point, as you can see here. So the signs will change, and they will land in different houses, and the planets will go along with them as well. Because the planet degrees and the signs that they're in will not change, but the house placements will, and the aspects to the 4 points will. Okay? So every chart will change to a certain extent depending on where you go. And also, the longer you stay there, you will feel its effects more. And slowly, the relocated chart's energies would kind of balance out your natal chart energy. Even though your natal chart is still the original one, it will still have the most effects. But if you stay for like 10, 20 years, then your relocated chart would kind of settle and start to blend into your behavior, the way you think, the house topics that they're activating in that part of the world for you. So the longer you stay, the energies would settle in and be more permanent. All right. So if you have budgetary issues, you have responsibilities at home, you have work, you can't leave, you can't travel as and when you like, do not worry because there's local space lines. So local space lines are planetary lines based on your personal chart in your current city or neighborhood that you're located in. So I teach this in my workshop as well. And based on the cities that you're based in, the planetary lines would actually change. Okay, so if you live in a challenging city and you can't move, you could always use local space lines to kind of moderate or balance out the heavy energy by, looking at your strongest planets and spending more time on them. So you can find like a good gym if your Mars is strong to work off the energy. If you want like a good career, you should find an office or a company that's located on your Jupiter line or your Venus line if they're strong in your natal chart. So there's so many applications. You can use this to find like your dentist, a school for your children based on their charts. If you want discipline and structure, you want to work hard, you go to a Saturn line if it's good for you. Okay, if you want to find a home, a moon line, as you can see here, the blue line is usually good. Okay, if it's strongly placed in your natal chart, you should find a house in these areas. And remember that they're two-way, they're bi-directional. So always look at the energies in both sides of that line, because they also activate the house topics that they are currently in. As you can see here, the moon line is between the 6th and the 7th house. So the topics in the 6th house would be activated for that moon. All right, so these are just some general explanations about local space. You can always do your own research. There's so many free resources out there. There's also timing, when to time, when to travel, when to relocate based on your birth chart and your current season and transits. It's very important. It's very strategic because you're maximizing those time windows to benefit you the most. So yes, this is just a simple checklist for how you can check your map, find your destination. The closer you are to your planetary lines in the world map, the stronger the influence is. So if you want to move to a city near a challenging line, try not to go too close to it. Have some distance so you won't feel it as much if you have no choice but to move near there. All right. So also identify the planet and the angle, the 4 points, as I've mentioned, and compare it with your natal chart. Like look at how the planets shift. Look at how the aspects to the 4 angles have shifted. Are they more challenging? Are they more supportive? Is it easier? So you get a general sense based on your previous travel holiday destinations, whether the experiences are true or not based on the season and the timing when you went. All right, so there's a lot of ways to explore this. You don't have to travel. You can always just remotely activate it by choosing your best career lines in the world and applying for jobs remotely to those companies there and see what responses you get, for example. Or you want to find a boyfriend or a husband, go onto the dating app and set your location to a city where your love lines are at. All right, so a lot of people find their partners through remote activation. So you don't have to go there to get a husband. You can just digitally activate those lines to find him. All right. So that's just a brief summary of what I have to share today. If you are interested to know more, you can always find me on Instagram and TikTok. I am at Astronet Official, my website, and you can book a reading with me. You can scan this QR code for a link to my workshop, which Rachelle is a student of. So I'm just happy to answer any questions that you have. And thank you so much for listening. And thank you, Rachelle, for having me here today.
Thank you, Natalia, for sharing that with us. I don't know if anybody is familiar with astrocartography, but it is a very interesting study of self. So, yeah, I have taken a little journey with it, and it has been greatly beneficial to my own personal life. So, I am going to drop in a. Natalia is giving us a discount for her workshop. So you may find it in the chat. You can go ahead and take a screenshot of it or copy and paste it, whichever works best for you. And that is our last speaker. I want to briefly just share with you some of our group trips at all. And hold on, Cathrine. Oh, is it? Yeah. You know what? I'm glad that you found it interesting, Cathrine. It is a little bit of a wild card, but I thought it was very interesting. And obviously it's very in depth, the video, and probably everyone was confused, like, how do I use this? But that is a kind of a self-study that you might want to do on your own time, especially those of you that are asking, like, where should I go first? We're kind of instinctively drawn to those places, and it usually makes sense later when you start to learn all your planetary placements. You're like, oh yeah, that's why I'm drawn there, is because like this is showing up. So anyway, just a little side note on that. And we're going to get into our group trips very quickly, and then we're going to do the draw, and I will let you guys go for the afternoon. Thank you so much for sticking with me for the day. It's been such a pleasure. All right. So we have our Soul Sisters group trip coming up to Morocco. It will be with Nicola, and we're very excited about this collaboration. Guys, like, join this group because Morocco is like home to me. It's safe. It is a little wild and chaotic, not going to lie. But if Morocco is on your list and you want to do it with someone and still have that somewhat solo experience without going by yourself, join us. We would love, love, love to have you. It's September 26th to the 28th. It's a 13-day tour. We're going to be doing Casablanca, Chefchaouen, the Sahara, Fez, and Marrakesh. So all the major cities. And this was actually the same kind of path that I took for my first one. No regrets. I ended up moving to Morocco after my second trip there, as I said at the beginning of this summit. And there were no regrets of ever living in Morocco or traveling to Morocco. It was one of the best things that I've ever done in my life. Beautiful people and just beautiful country. What's included? So 13 days fully guided, beautiful riads that we're going to be staying. Riads are traditional Moroccan homes that have been turned into guest houses, and generally they include a inner courtyard, and the rooms are located around the outside. And then usually the courtyard is very beautiful. It's like a garden, and it has either a fountain or even a pool. And it's just so beautiful, just great for taking photos and whatnot. And we're doing a camel ride at sunset in the Sahara Desert. I actually spent my 35th birthday in Morocco in the Sahara. That is a story for another time. It was pretty insane. I was the only woman on that trip and out there in the desert by myself. And it was pretty intense, but it was absolutely amazing and one of my most memorable experiences. So we're going to be doing that. We'll do a professional photo shoot in Chefchaouen. Guys, this is the blue city that a lot of you guys see on Instagram and Pinterest and TikTok. It's just such a cute little village, and it's so quaint. Everything literally is blue there, all the buildings, and just such a fun place to walk in. So we're going to be doing a professional photo shoot there. Most meals are included. All transport and local guides is included. And this is a small group for us Soul Sisters. So if you're interested, you can go to, after I'm finished with these slides, I'm going to just post where you can find more details about these trips. The Morocco trip, Nicola and myself, we put this together because we want women to feel like a princess. When you go to Morocco, like you literally feel as a woman like a princess. You're treated so amazing. And you just really get that experience. That's one of the biggest things I miss about not living there, is that everyone treated me with such respect as a woman, regardless of what media says, regardless about what, anyone says about Morocco that hasn't been there. They really do take care of women in Morocco. It's a really great experience. So anyway, I'm going to be posting the link about how you can access the itinerary for that. And if you're interested, we are offering a summit exclusive, and we're doing $400 off for summit attendees. Book before May 31st to claim the offer. And you could go to soulsistersglobalnetwork.com/trips. And I will post the link later. The next trip that we are going to be going on is in Egypt. Guys, I have been wanting to go to Egypt for years and years and years, and it's just never worked out for me. And as a lot of people have said, you probably have heard this, and it has been brought up throughout this. Egypt can sometimes have mixed reviews on whether it's safe for women to travel alone, or should she join a group. Personally, as an experienced traveler, I have decided to do a group trip to Morocco as my first trip. So I will also be experiencing this as the first time. And we are partnered with an amazing woman, husband and wife. She's the part owner of the tour company, and her and I have been talking for months now, and she is such a lovely person. They've invited me into their home, and I am very excited about this. We're going to be going to Cairo, Aswan, Luxor, and the Red Sea. So what's included in this? It's 12 days fully guided. We're going to the pyramids, the Sphinx, the Valley of Kings. We're going to do felucca sailing on the Nile, Red Sea resort to close out the journey. Egypt is a very intense place because of the history and because of just the energy there. And so I thought that we could close it out with doing a resort style kind of just relaxation on the Red Sea. And the picture here, this is what the Red Sea resort area looks like. And what's included is 3 domestic flights included, 5-star hotels throughout. So 5-star for Egypt is different than 5-star in Western countries. Just a quick note, but they are nicer hotels. So we will not be staying in places that will be unsafe or unclean. We also have an expert Egyptologist guide. So the woman that I mentioned previous, she is an expert guide, and we are just so excited to tap into her knowledge. And again, this is a small group for women only. We have an summit exclusive for this. So if you book, you get $400 off. Book before May 31st, and send me a message, and you could go and check out more about the itinerary in detail at soulsistersglobalnetwork.com/trips. And our last group trip we have coming up on September. It's over the holiday, Labor Day holiday of the Canadian and Americans. This is a quick trip, 6 days. It's also my birthday. My birthday is August 31st. So I'll be going a little bit earlier. And we're going to be having an amazing time in Costa Rica. So we're doing San Jose, the volcanoes. We're doing La Fortuna, Monteverde, and we have such a cool itinerary plan, guys. We're going to be going to a sloth sanctuary. We're going to be going to a coffee farm. and just hiking and zip lining. There's so much stuff. Like it's just like these trips are just so packed with so many amazing things that you'll just have memories for life. So it's 8 days fully guided. We were doing a collaboration with Angela that you heard from earlier with Let's Go Globetrotting. It's 7 nights in a 3 to 4 star boutique hotels, very cool hotels, like in the jungle, and just like, oh, the monkeys, you can hear them. And it's, yeah. So we're doing zip lining, kayaking, a guided sloth tour, coffee tasting, boat crossings, street food, walking tour. And we're doing a Soul Sisters farewell dinner included in that small group as well, maximum 16 women. So we are also offering an exclusive for that. So go ahead and try to book these any of these flights, if any of these trips. If these places are calling to you, definitely join our group. We are just amazing group of people. Most of you are already in the Soul Sisters Facebook group, and it's just such a great vibe of supportive women. So if you are looking for adventure, if you are looking for women who just get it, support and love, join us. All right. Okay, so we have our giveaway now that we're going to do. The giveaways will only be for those people who are on the call. We only have 8 participants here. We had over 100 people register. So when I share the wheel, you're going to see tons of names because I took all the names of people who register, because that's how you entered the draw. So we're going to spin the wheels until we find the winner in the group. So all of the ones who left early, well, I guess they made it easier for, as you can see, there's a lot of names in here, but sorry to those who did not show up or stay. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do, the first draw is for the silver case. And this is the Triva's carry-on from MVST. I don't think we have Vicky on here. I did not see her name, so we're going to remove it. I don't believe I saw Madeline either. This could take a little bit of time, but we're gonna get through this. Nope. Amy's not here either. I don't think we have a Simona. No, we do not. Okay. Hey, we almost had you. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take out some of these names. Can everybody put their name in the comments section, and I'll just remove all of these and put everybody's name who is here. Thank you for having patience with me. You think you plan everything, and then it's there's always some curveballs at the end, but that's okay. We're used to curveballs, right? Okay. I think I have everyone. If your name is not here on this list, can you please just send me a message? I'll wait for just a second. Okay. I think I have everyone. Okay, let's do it. Daisy, you won. Congratulations, girl. So she won the silver case. Okay. All right. So we are gonna do a giveaway for the black one. The black one is the essential one. So we're gonna do that now. Yay! One more. We're doing now for the green one. And ladies, please send me your mailing addresses, okay? So that I can reach out to MVST and they will mail it to you directly. So send it to me on either Messenger or send it to my email address. I'll give that to you. Melissa, yay! You won the green one. So when you reach out to me, please tell me which ones. I'll probably remember, but okay. And then we're going to do a quick spin on my solo travel course, and that is for the VIP one. And so let's do that right now. Cathrine, if you would like to give this away to anyone, feel free to do that. I know you are not new to solo travel. If that works for you, feel free to do it. You can even do a giveaway in your own page. Since this might not be as beneficial to you, it's more beneficial to someone looking to have their first solo trip. Okay. Ladies, thank you so much. Oh, Cathrine says to spin again. Okay. All right, let's spin again. Okay. Daisy, I can imagine you don't want that either. These are experienced people. So, Daisy, would you like to do a giveaway with that? Okay. All right. Ladies, thank you so much. I'm going to drop my email address here. Please reach out to me for your claiming your prizes. Hold on, I'm just typing. Okay. Copy and paste my email. Reach out to me either through Facebook or through email to claim your prizes. I will get that information over to MVST and your cases will be on their way. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up today. I really appreciate you guys, and we will be seeing you again soon in the group. Okay. Happy travels.